site, if anybody's wondering, I know we repeat it each time, it is dep.nj.gov, Keyport landfill. Site security, there are no additional updates, but DEP reiterates that an 8-foot chain link has been installed in the entrance gate along the mean high water line, and new signs have been posted in English and Spanish. Enforcement, no update at this time. From 2021 to 2025, DEP issued 4 administrative orders and notices of civil administrative penalty assessments, totaling more than $1.2 million in penalties for this site. All 4 orders are pending in a hearing before the Office of Administrative Law in a consolidated action. A case management conference with the Administrative Law Judge was held June 2nd, 2026. DEP is meeting with the Division of Law regularly to stay attuned. Landfill sampling and testing. All results will undergo quality assurance and quality control review as per DEP protocols. DEP hopes to present all the data at the public meeting in September. We're waiting for the date to be confirmed. Surface water. This sampling plan includes sampling at 24 sampling sites during different tidal and rainfall conditions. Both incoming and outgoing tide sampling is complete. Sample results are undergoing QA, QC, and will be made available, including a narrative describing the data as soon as possible. Sampling collection for wet weather sampling has not occurred due to lack of appropriate weather conditions. Conditions seem like they may be right for sampling this week, and as we heard today, it's supposed to be today that we were having the sampling. They'll keep everyone updated. Groundwater. DEP and the prospective buyer's agent, CESI, completed groundwater sampling. DEP has completed its QA/QC review and is now evaluating the data and will prepare a narrative explaining the results. CESI data was released last week. A link to this data is available on DEP's website also. Soil, gas, and test pits. The prospective buyer's agent has conducted additional investigations, including soil borings, soil gas sampling, and installation of test pits. A test pit is an excavation to directly study subsurface conditions. The test pits at Keyport landfill are being used to observe water table elevations in consideration of future development. CESI data was released last week, and the link is available on DEP's and Keyport's website. Keyport Borough sampling. To determine if groundwater contamination is present on and around the Aeromarine site, Keyport Borough applied for the grant from DEP and the NJ Economic Development Authority for funding to have their agent, Excel Environmental, install 12 monitoring wells on and near the Aeromarine site. The grant application was approved on June 12th. Groundwater sampling at these wells is currently being analyzed for the same parameters as groundwater analysis occurring in the Keyport landfill. In addition, if warranted, based on field screening, soil samples will also be collected at the locations of the wells. Excel's data was released last week. The link is available at DEP's and the Keyport website. No update regarding the records review, but DEP reiterates that it continues to look for any possible sites in the area that may have contamination that has not been addressed. To date, and this was earlier today, DEP has not identified any such contamination. However, so everybody knows, the old Capucci gas station, which is 76 Broad Street, they are going to be doing testing there. It will probably start within the next week or two. DEP is also reviewing business operation records at the Aeromarine site as well, and will take appropriate action if needed. So from today, we have usually about 30 to 33 people on the call. It's the governor's office, congressman's office, DEP, DOH, council members, and people from Union Beach also. Today, the NGDEP began conducting surface water sampling as part of its wet weather testing. SESI, under the oversight of the NJDEP, will also be returning to conduct dioxin testing of the groundwater. The surface water samples will be analyzed by a certified laboratory under DEP supervision and DEP representatives. They'll also be present during the groundwater sampling process. The DEP advised that they will be conducting a thorough and aggressive review of all testing results, which is why it's taking so long. They will also identify any additional areas where further testing may be necessary. And some of this may be repeated in their report, but I want everybody to know what we hear on the call. I spoke with Katie Angarone today from DEP, who informed me the testing will also be conducted near 76 Broad Street, the location of Capusci's gas station or former Capusci's gas station. Katie will provide me with additional information over the next few days to share with the residents and our community. We'll keep everyone updated as we receive it. Assemblyman Scharfenberger asked whether Superstorm Sandy may have changed the trajectory of the groundwater or the contamination. Commissioner Pasternak stated that he would consult with the project geologist, who would be the most qualified person to answer that question and provide us with information. And that's important because a lot of questions are coming from the community regarding that. I asked the DEP whether if the groundwater flow is moving away from the community and back towards the Aeromarine and Chingarora Creek, if it could still impact the homes located behind the creek. Again, they advised that the geologist will be providing that answer to us, that he couldn't answer it. Matt from Congressman Pallone's office asked what the next steps would be for the Department of Health. Once it receives the testing results from DEP, the Department of Health explained that has already begun an assessment using data from the Cancer Registry. They will review all available data and potential sources related to the increased cancer incidences. They emphasize that this is a thorough process, and if there is any indication of concern, they will work with and petition the federal partners as appropriate. They also stated that they remain fully committed to conducting these assessments, even if DEP's testing results show no findings. Finally, the governing body will be holding a special council meeting Thursday, August 13th at 6 p.m. at the school. Am I correct, Hector? Did we get
13? Yes.
Okay. That will be at the high school?
Correct.
Okay. During this meeting, representatives from SESI and Excel Environmental will present their reports in clear, understandable terms for the public, because we're not scientists. We don't read the reports as they're sent to us. They have to provide that information to us. They will present their findings to the council, and public comment will be held at the conclusion of presentations. It will not be back and forth from the community to SESI or Excel. They're there to speak to the council of the report and the community. At the meeting in September, they will be there and there will be questions back and forth. Okay. Thank you, everybody, on that.
Can I just ask a question? Is it possible that these statements that you read at the council meetings, updates be shared with the entire council before they're read? Sure. So that we know what they are?
Okay, that's fine.
And we just said one thing, can we recommend, Hector, can we reach out to the members of the DDA committee and make sure they're invited especially to the meeting that we're gonna have on the 13th?
Yeah, thank you.
I just said one follow-up, but I think it's probably just a typo, but there's a DEP, if you look at groundwater, it says the DEP's website. I'm more particular interested in the assessing report. Is there a different website, or is that the DEP's Keyport website? You know, it doesn't say Keyport there, I wasn't sure. Do they have two different, are they putting the
No,
assessing
it's the
stuff
same.
somewhere?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go right into a presentation for Cass Street redevelopment. And I don't know the names of you're on that.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council President, Council members. For the record, my name is Benjamin Wine, and I am a land use attorney of the firm of Prime, Tubell, and Maselli. Before I get into the specific details of what we're here to present to you this evening, I want to take the opportunity to thank you and everybody here for inviting us to present our proposed redevelopment plan at 3 Cass Street. And I also want to take an opportunity, much as I've done a little bit of work in this general area, I had the opportunity, I was cursing under my breath as I had to park about 5 blocks away, but it actually gave me the opportunity to walk along Front Street over here, and I was blown away by your waterfront. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's incumbent really upon everybody who lives here to do everything that they can to maintain that. I just think it was a stunning opportunity to walk by. So thank you for that as well. What we're here to present to you this evening is something that we've had an opportunity to work very closely with Mr. Herrera, your borough administrator, as well as Mr. Raynone, your borough council, for the ability to basically come up with a project that is extremely well thought out. This is not something that's cookie cutter or from inside a box somewhere. This is a project that we're excited to present to you that really takes a lot of different angles from a lot of different parts of Keyport, and also presents to you some opportunities to be able to grow within the borough for years to come. And we're very excited about that. You'll hear about it momentarily from our project team. So I do have a few members of my project team here this evening to be able to present to you, but I'd really like to focus on our project engineer, Michaela McGuire, who's going to take you through some of the site, both existing and what we're proposing from an improvement perspective. And then we'll move over to Matthew Fitzsimmons, our project architect, who's going to go into a little bit more detail about the actual buildings that are being proposed at the site. I know everybody is probably familiar with the site. It's something that's obviously, the water tower feature on the site is visible obviously directly from 35. And we look forward to showing you how we've been able to integrate some of those site features into our proposed development. I do also have with me this evening a traffic engineer who's done some background work to hopefully answer any questions that you may have related to traffic impacts if you do have any questions. And I also have a member of our planning team who again has worked very closely with the project team to ensure that what we're going to present to you here this evening represents sound planning and really an exciting way to move the borough of Keyport forward without imposing, like I said before, cookie cutter development within your borough. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have of me. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the real professionals in the room.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do I need to be sworn in?
Well,
Okay.
it's a presentation.
Thank you, just
It's not an application.
Just checking.
We'll
Thank
assume that
you.
you're telling us the truth about the presentation.
Thank you.
If you want.
So I'm from Stonefield. We did the civil engineering due diligence on this project. We've been working on it as council mentioned for a while. So I'm just going to talk you through the existing site, any of the research that we have done to be able to come up with the proposed development tonight. So the site's located at block 33. It's lots 16, 17, 20, and 21.01. It totals about 18.2 acres. It's currently in an industrial zone, mostly developed with pavement or buildings aside from the marsh area that's to the top, to the west area of the site. There's a couple frontages. So the north side has frontages on Francis Street and Beer Street, and then the south side has frontages on Route 35, Cass Street, Jackson Street, and Perry Street. The site has, I would say, 2 atypical features that really did drive part of this development that I'll talk through. So the first one is the Henry Hudson Bike Trail. You could see there's a gap in the yellow property lines. That is the bike trail essentially cutting through this property that we're showing on the screen. The second one is, as I mentioned, this creek and marsh area. Again, that's to the west of the site. We did do an ALTA survey. We also sent an environmental scientist on site to flag any potential wetlands to really understand from an environmental perspective what can be done on this site. So that area takes up about 5 acres of this 18.2 acres. So that is limiting the development to about 13 acres of this current site that we're showing here today. To talk through a couple of the DEP impacts that we anticipate, there is a flood hazard area associated with the creek. The benefit is the site does slope pretty significantly as you rise up to this developed area. So we don't anticipate any flood hazard area impacts with the proposed development. Secondly would be a riparian buffer. We anticipate a 50-foot buffer, again, Similarly, where the marsh is and compared to the existing and proposed development, we don't anticipate any impacts. Thirdly, as I mentioned, we did have a wetland scientist walk the site and flag the site as well. There are wetlands essentially running directly along that marsh area that I keep mentioning. We do anticipate a 150-foot or 300-foot buffer. The site has been developed since prior to the 1970s, so any of the existing developable area that currently exists can be redeveloped, but we will need a permit from the DEP. And then lastly, we are in a CAFRA zone, so we did review that as well. There are some impervious coverage impacts, and we will need to get that permit as well. Those are really the two big features that limited, I think, the area on site, but I think the applicant and the architect did a great job incorporating those features into the proposed design.
Okay, good evening. I'm Matthew Fitzsimmons with HCM Design. I'm here to talk about the proposal. Can you hear me okay? Is this loud? Okay. Before we jump into it, this is what you see on the screen is kind of the bird's eye view looking northeast into Keyport. And what you see in the middle of the site between the two parallel yellow lines is the Henry Hudson Trail that was described earlier. In the foreground is Route 35. The trail connects over 35. What's interesting about this view is we feel this is a good opportunity to have development create a gateway edge into the town, utilizing this trail, entering into Keyport. As described earlier, on the left-hand side is the creek and wetland area. Currently, the visual access to it is obstructed by some of the development that's there today on Block 53. We see this as a great opportunity to not only enhance the bikeway, the trail, but to leverage the creek and the wetland as a part of the experience of a new development at this location. This exhibit is our site plan, and I want to talk kind of at a high level about the opportunities that we see. Just from orientation, the lower left-hand corner is Route 35, and Beer Street is on the right-hand side going kind of page bottom to page to the top of the page there. The angle that's this diagonal angle driving through the site plan is the Henry Hudson Parkway, or the Henry Hudson Trail. We see this as an opportunity to take what is a linear path today and really create a series of activation nodes along the way that gets built into the development. As you can see, I know it's hard to see at this scale, but along that pathway, there's a series of opportunities starting kind of in the lower left, kind of an observation pavilion to, again, take advantage of those views into the wetland area. There is a water tower that is kind of at the corner of what we're labeled as parcel A. We see this as an opportunity to have kind of that visual iconic anchor that can help ground the community and create that kind of node right at the center of activation. And as the trail continues to the page northeast, opportunities to create public park space, as well as kind of a gateway at Beer Street kind of coming back into the site. So again, what's important to this development is leveraging this bike experience, this trail experience, to create a new community. Parallel to the bikeway, we have kind of a parallel street, internal street, that's going to act as a kind of a Main Street experience, kind of similar to downtown, but kind of at a more intimate scale related to the redevelopment. What's another feature that we are looking into is allowing the public into the space, not only along the bikeway, but allowing the existing streets around it to kind of connect into it and establish the town connection to the trail system there. We've labeled this as parcel A, B, and C. The opportunities to create a diversity of housing types Starting in the top at parcel A, looking at more of a residential community that has kind of a view, allowing Perry Street to have a view towards the bike trail, and establishing that community on the north side of the trail. Parcel B is a mid-rise development opportunity. What's annotated in a red line indicates the ground floor retail opportunity. So having a strip, 2 blocks of inline retail to help activate the streetscape and the trail, this is a street level view. Again, you can see the trail just to the right. This is a potential shade structure embedded in the central plaza area along the trail. You can see in the background is a kind of lower street level scale with small scale retail and restaurants that can help activate that streetscape there. Again, there's the existing water tower in the middle of the site is an opportunity to create kind of a focal feature to this new community. And when we look at the residential around, what we feel is really important is to create, to break down the scale of those buildings and the opportunities along the trail, closer to Route 35, again with those views, uninterrupted views back towards the wetlands and down the valley there. That is our brief presentation.
So just before I kind of open it up to the council for any questions generally of our professionals, I want to, thank obviously my team for working on this. I hope that this gave you a little bit of a flavor for what I'll call good planning, right? A lot of times, and I work on a lot of development projects throughout the state, a lot of times developers will seek to find a parcel that is traditionally not encumbered by any site constraints and really build as much as you can possibly build. I actually think this is a very curated project that takes into account a lot of those site constraints. You saw from some of the renderings that were proposed how those wetlands and that marsh area is actually being incorporated. There's a bridge structure being proposed, a walking path. That bike trail, I can tell you, again, 95% of developers look at that as a constraint that they try to work around. We actually treated that as a feature, not a bug of our site, and the ability to enhance a county trail that has really fallen into disrepair and disuse for quite some time. So I think that it's a nice way to enhance that with retail storefronts along that corridor and really bring it back to life. And really, finally, I think as you saw with the various different types of residential being proposed, some of that low rise, some of that mid rise, and obviously the high rise along 35. It's an opportunity with different unit sizes and different types of residential units to provide for current residents of Keyport as well as future residents of Keyport in a variety of housing stock options. So you will have some people who are more interested in some of that high-rise development with greater views and the ability to live perhaps in smaller units, but again, more focused on the views. And you'll have people who are much more interested in kind of that lower scale, low density, 4/2 development. And lastly, we didn't really speak.
4/2 is.
Pardon me?
Can you tell me what 4/2?
I'm sorry, 4/2 being 4 levels of living over 2 levels of a combination of parking and or retail. So what we didn't touch on, and Councilman Bergen brings up a good point, when I say over 2, this project is intended to be parked quite significantly. So you saw some of the metrics, but we have an approximately 1.5 parking space to residential unit ratio proposed approximately, which is something that is not typical in redevelopment plans, especially as you go, I mean, if you go into truly urban environments, you'll end up seeing no parking requirement or 0.5 space per unit parking requirements. Here we felt obviously being in Keyport, where most people currently have vehicles and we assume will continue to have vehicles, that really parking the project at closer to that 1.5 to 1 is a much more appropriate way to plan a redevelopment, which goes to what I said earlier about this was a constructive and curated plan for this particular area and not a cookie cutter opportunity. So with that, I will open it up to any questions from the council. I'll remind you that in addition to the engineer and the architect that you heard from, we do also have a traffic engineer and a planner here as well if you have any questions. Sure.
This goes back to a meeting we had at the beginning of the year on Zoom. So you must be aware that Cass Street is a very controversial topic. business that operates there is depriving our citizens of the quiet enjoyment of their property. It's an ongoing thing, and I mentioned at that meeting that when you come with a presentation, you're gonna be painted with the same brush as that business because you're collecting money from that business. And I was told, well, that's a third party, there's nothing we can do about it. I would like to know if you've reached out to this business at all to help us with our problem. Are you going to be a good neighbor, or are you gonna do what happened there already?
Sure, great question, and thank you for bringing that up. So
You're welcome.
we are aware, obviously, of the concerns with the current business operation on the property. I know that there have been some violations that have been issued, really some, I guess, being an understatement. I am also aware, obviously, of the fire that occurred at the facility, I believe it was in May of this year. So again, I'm aware of that, my project team is aware of that, as is the property owner aware of that. And this is an opportunity really to, I mean, let's paint, to use your terminology, paint it for what it is, right? It's currently an industrial-esque type use at the property, and I don't think that that really benefits anyone, and I would agree with you, Councilman. I think that that's not a use that if you were planning today to build, especially with all the residential surrounding us, I don't think anybody in their right mind would approve an industrial development in this area. For better or worse, it's existed there obviously for decades, with several businesses coming in and out of the
I
use
hate
of
to
this.
interrupt you, but let's understand something. We're not talking about an industrial use, we're not talking about a warehouse, we have those there, so we're talking about a junkyard. And most of us up here don't believe it's a permitted use anyway, so I understand your point, and
Correct.
I'll let you go on, but
Sure.
when you say industrial-esque, it's not any industrial-esque that I'm familiar with. You can't find auto junkyards pretty much anywhere you drive around in Jersey.
I mean, there are some, but there definitely are some. I mean, it's a use that does exist within the state because it's a necessary use, whether it looks nice or not.
Well, my question was this.
Correct.
My
correct.
question was this, what have you done to help alleviate our problems? How have you been a good neighbor? I said, we need to do this. And as far as I know, you guys didn't reach out to them, you haven't said, you know what, help us here. You know, let's all work together, but you don't care, you just collect the rent. So that makes you, in my mind, not a good neighbor for this.
And to piggyback on back of what Councilman kind of said, full disclosure, I live in that area. I deal with those trucks every day. It's not a little nuisance, it's a 24-hour-a-day nuisance. We've all had property damage from it. So what I see is this is replacing one nightmare with another, because I heard you say you have somebody from traffic planning here.
Sure.
You've done nothing to change any ingresses into that property except for the existing streets that are there. So you're replacing ginormous tractor trailers that are hitting telephone poles and whatnot with an influx of thousands of cars. Because you're talking about 940 apartments, 1,700 parking spaces, plus retail. So all you're doing is trading trucks for cars constantly coming in.
Right. So I can definitely have the traffic engineer speak to that. They are,
Once again, my question
Yeah.
is this, what have you done to speak to these people to help us with the problem we have in our town that you wanna go build now 900 and something units?
yeah, I mean.
What have you done? Say, we didn't do anything, or we did this, please.
Yeah, look, we have attempted to abate some of the conditions on the property. There is an existing junkyard business on the property. I'm not going to speak to the nature of the permitted use, non-permitted use. That is an issue that has been litigated, continue to be litigated. So without getting into that specifically, because I think that will take us on a little bit of a sidetrack, I can tell you that part and parcel of the reason and the basis for redeveloping the site is to eliminate that use as well as some of
So
the
your
other.
answer is you have done nothing to help us alleviate these problems.
So
That's
I
what
would-
I'm hearing. Correct me if
So
I'm
I would
wrong.
not say that, if only because, again, we've dealt with the
Well, if
violence.
you did something, tell us what it was.
We have not thrown the
Go ahead.
business out, right? We have not tossed the business from the property.
Have you called them, say, you know, you're being a nuisance? This is a town I'd like to do business in?
From my understanding, my client has spoken to the operator, yes, about
And you
that.
have emails to this effect?
I do not on me,
So
so
you're telling me you did nothing? You just went along collecting rent?
I'm not gonna,
As a resident, I can tell you nothing's changed.
right, and.
It's
and
been years. It's been 4 years now.
I hear you, Again, I have not.
That's great that you hear me, but nothing's changed.
I mean, I understand. The change is you can speak to a tenant, you can, again, without going into whether or not the use is permitted to operate there or not, which is the subject of litigation, so I don't, I don't think it's fruitful to have that conversation. I'm happy to if you want, but I think it's more appropriate to talk about going forward, which is why we're here, how we're planning to alleviate the condition by eliminating it entirely.
And going forward was what I wanted for you guys to talk to your tenants. And
And,
you obviously didn't. So just stand here and say, we did nothing, we just keep collecting the rent as the business in there is destroying people's right to quiet enjoyment of their property. I thought that was a right in this country, in this town. But obviously, you guys just keep running them tractor trailers down there. I mean, if I'm the landlord and I have a tenant who's a nuisance, I would do something about it. But obviously, you don't, so I don't consider you guys good neighbors.
Okay, I have a question. You wanna put a building 940 units in a town, I mean, this is our hometown. I'm sure that you understand, it's a very small town, but we have that community feel. That is building, I don't know, Jersey City there. I mean, how is that gonna help us except for give us more money for taxes? I mean, come on,
So-
this is a small
In
community,
that
we
small
work
area.
together. In that small area, 940 units, that one thing is, I don't know how high that is.
20
But-
stories.
But regardless, I mean, you've got homeowners that are there, these are the people that have been dealing with the mess over there. You have homeowners there, so what are you gonna drive the homeowners out? I find this very ridiculous.
So,
It's one nuisance for another because all this car traffic.
So-
This was a quiet neighborhood before 4 years ago. I have neighbors sitting in the audience. I can see you. They'll all tell you that the only noise we deal with right now is these tractor trailers. Now you're gonna put all of this in over there? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for that size of land.
Exactly.
so again, I'm
Maybe
happy
you
to.
can have, before you go, maybe you can have them break down, you have it broken down in parcels, maybe you can tell everybody,
Right.
because we have residents from different areas, it's broken up by the trail, how many units you propose
Sure.
on each one of those parcels to try and show how it breaks down.
Totally, and I think before I do that, I think I'm happy to do that. Again, this is meant to be a phased project. This is not, we come in day one, if this is ultimately how we proceed and build everything at once. There are phases, which again, I'm happy to go into, or have my architect go into in more detail. I also want to point out that from the traffic engineer, who again, I'm happy to have him speak to it, I don't think it's fair to just say you're replacing one with the same thing or even worse. They are different uses, and there are different, in my industry, there's different ways of looking at that. So I think, again, if you'd like to hear that testimony,
Sure.
then I'm happy to do that. And then lastly, the thing that we didn't particularly touch on, but again, our planner can address it if you want. It's our understanding that Keyport has an affordable housing need as well, and that would be part and parcel of any development proposal. It would include, bringing Keyport closer into its compliance on affordable housing. So,
We only have an obligation of 40 units.
right, and this project could
This is
satisfy,
188.
right, so this project could more than satisfy.
Right, and that's one good point.
Right, so again, I think that, I'm happy to have my professionals address the direct comments. I think the purpose, what we're here for tonight is to solicit feedback and ideally constructive feedback related to the particular proposal. And, hearing what the mayor just said with respect to, the height perhaps being an issue, again, hearing that feedback is helpful. This is not,
It's not only the height, I mean, it's 940 units in a community we're a small community. I mean, you have residents, I'm looking at them on the first row, and, you're gonna drive them out of their homes by having something like that. Is this what our town wants?
so,
No.
again, this
You're
is
hearing
what,
it from the residents, you're hearing it from us.
understood.
Just because the affordable housing, I mean, I'd rather do away with the affordable housing than do that. I mean, come on.
I think it's just, we're all, our frustration there is the noise and the distraction and the destruction, and now you're putting in 1,000 new homes and retail space, and you're bringing in a lot more, you're bringing in a different type of traffic. And it feels like you didn't hear our concerns by proposing a project of this scale.
Well, we haven't heard your concerns until tonight, right? So that's.
You had
Well,
my
this is
concern
our
in
back with our
your meeting
redevelopment.
back in January, or whenever it was. I expressed our
Yes.
concern.
Yes.
And how are we supposed to absorb 920 units, gonna be well over 1,000 people? We're a town of what, 8,000 people?
72.
I mean, how are we supposed to absorb kids for schools,
Great
water and
question.
sewer, traffic and all of that? This is, besides being a bad neighbor, this is just absurd.
Okay, so again, we're happy to address that comment and that question directly.
So perhaps you can break it down and show everyone here how you've divided up these parcels, because I definitely have questions for the traffic engineer with Matt, but
Perfect.
maybe we can kind of go through this a little bit.
Yeah, can I just point? Can you hear me?
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Parcel A, the two parcels on the top are 300, 100, almost 200 here, and then 450 in parcel C.
And pretty much everything is in structured parking, so either parking garages or parking underneath, correct?
It's parking underneath. There are no, yeah, it's parking underneath.
Yeah, everything, all parking's underneath with the exception of parcel C.
You have parking garage,
We
correct?
have a garage that's vertical.
Yeah, there's no surface parking proposed.
Yes.
So that brings up a question, if I may. You said it's approximately 1.5 spaces per unit, give or take.
It's a little bit more, but then when you factor in there's commercial.
Is there any other parking? So when people have guests over or
Yeah.
people want to access the Henry Hudson Trail, I don't see any parking.
There's approximately 70 on-street parking spaces within the development itself. So trying to create kind of that streetscape with the parallel parking, angled parking at the street level.
And
So
look, yeah, no, it's,
70 on-street, but 940 units.
So
So
on-
everyone has 1.5 parking spaces per unit. You don't even have enough to have guests at every house.
so again, we can have, I think the traffic engineer might be helpful to answer that question. That's,
And I'd like to hear that.
yeah, look, there's assumptions made, and as I suggested before, when you deal with redevelopment, there are a lot of places that talk about trying to reduce vehicle traffic, and vehicle ownership rather. That was not the intention here. There's a recognition, obviously, that people in this borough, are unlikely to reduce their vehicle ownership, so that's factored in. Again, I'm happy to have him address how that calculation came up specifically, but I can tell you that that is a relatively high calculation for higher density development throughout the state.
And right now, you don't have a breakdown of the number of the size or number of units. Have we got closer to that yet?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so we can have the architect speak to that.
I have one more
Will you be able
question.
will you be able to provide us those information in writing now? I know you've talked some summers about time that we can start to get some of that stuff in writing.
Yes, and we can provide that information now on the record, and we can write
And the
it.
traffic engineer is here to speak tonight.
He is, yes.
Did you ever think of making something smaller for our community? I mean, 940 units, couldn't you have proposed something smaller to the community?
I mean, you can
I'd like
always,
to understand that.
Maybe not
Right.
high rise.
so look, so you can always propose something bigger or something smaller. And as I said at the beginning of my part of the presentation, and what I respectfully request the council to at least hear me out on, right, is ordinarily you have developers that would see a lot of X size and say, all right, here's the height I want to go and make either one building or a bunch of buildings that all maximize the height and all maximize the density in each building, and not focus on the amenity space, the interior roadways, the community gardens, community space, the commercial use. So we didn't do that, right? So to answer your question directly, you can always go more, you can always seek more, you can always seek less. And I think what we've done is struck a balance between putting higher density, high-rise development right along the highway and tearing that down into much more community-oriented development towards the residential neighbors.
I mean, this isn't only not characteristic of Keyport with such a high rise, the entire Bay Shore. Like, you have to drive down to like Long Branch just to find something like this. So I think it's really out of character for the area, and I don't think it's really the way that any of us are looking to go.
Okay,
I
fair
mean,
enough.
that's tall.
It's a 25% increase in our population just there.
And again, good planning also does mean forward thinking, right? And that's part of the proposal, is to say Keyport is not going to look today, it's not gonna look in 20 years like what it looks like today, it's not gonna look in 100 years like what it looks like today, and, you know, being part of the solution.
I'm sorry, excuse me, I understand that everyone has their opinions on it, but we do need to allow the presenter to answer the questions and the council to ask theirs, so if the audience could hold their comments until the public comment. Ben, in the meantime, there's been a lot of questions on the specifically in the traffic. Can we have your traffic engineer come up and then start to answer the council's questions on that, so we can get a little more
Sure.
specifics?
And just before we do that, because I think it was Councilman Bergen's question directly, so Matthew, do you have a general breakdown of the unit distribution throughout? So number of one bedrooms, number of two bedrooms.
You know, I apologize, I have the percentages. So one bedrooms and studios were roughly 52, 53%. 2 bedrooms 43%, and then 3 bedrooms 5%. So it's kind of skewed towards smaller household sizes.
Well, you do plan on some 3 bedrooms?
We do, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And from an affordable perspective as well, there are requirements on 3 bedrooms and whatnot, so, yes. Okay, so, Andrew, if you wanna come up?
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you today. My name is Andrew Viscio. I am an engineer with Stonefield Engineering and Design. We've been working on this project for a number of months, essentially completing a due diligence traffic analysis, traffic and parking analysis, I should say. I just want to talk about a few high-level things, and then I can get to some of the specifics and answer those questions. So when council mentioned proper planning, I think that fits the description of this development from a transportation planning perspective, in that it's sections we counted specifically are, I guess going from closest to farthest, Beer Street and Jackson Street, Beer Street and Maple Place, Maple Place and West 4th Street, that kind of unique geometry, and Route 36 and Broad Street. When we were trying to distribute the trips to and from the site, one thing that we felt was interesting is that there's multiple routes to take to get to the major highways, Route 35, Route 36, Garden State Parkway. Anytime you look at direction routing, first there's were there any specific questions?
Matt,
Yeah.
can we get from the DOT, would we already be able to tell from the DOT at that particular intersection whether that's at capacity, not at capacity? Is that information already exists?
They post traffic counts that are available on their website to the extent that they actually rate the capacity in the intersections. And I don't believe there's that information publicly available. I mean, that would really have to be done as part of an individual study for that intersection. So, I mean, we can see the traffic that's there currently. The applicant, any redeveloper would tell you what the traffic would be there in the future and weigh that against the current capacity of the intersection. One of the things I think you brought up a point that you do have multiple ways in and out of a development like this. My concern would be the route that you have to take on either of those, specifically, really the only way. You've got access, you've got ingress from 35, you've got egress to 35. I would see most people that are trying to get to anywhere on 36 or to access the parkway, which is probably going to be a decent amount of trips leaving the site. They're probably going to favor St. Peter's Place and run right down. That's going to turn into that's a 50-foot wide road to begin with, so that could turn into a speedway. And what that does to the intersections that you have downstream of Broad, I can see most people avoiding the traffic light at Broad and 36 and then just hopping right on to Main Street and 36. In addition to the traffic that you're going to have coming off 36 to get back to the site, say in PM with people coming home. I think you mentioned it before, what that means to the northbound intersection of traffic coming back into the site from 36 right on Broad Street. So, the U-turn, exactly. That's already a pretty significant backup. So I think there's a lot that needs to be considered on a pretty granular basis when it comes to looking at traffic into and out of the site.
Yeah, and I should clarify that, we established that perimeter essentially choosing what we felt were the primary intersections in the immediate vicinity of the site. That was just based on our engineering judgment and knowledge of the area. Certainly your borough engineer has a wealth of knowledge. And we would encourage collaboration between us to make sure that our study is looking at the right locations. We are conducting the analyses that he would like to see. So I think that would only improve the analysis that we've already conducted, and we're happy to.
Are we willing to share what you have now with the engineer?
Yes.
That's what you have already?
I have a question. So, the current main complaint of residents in this area is the truck traffic, right? So you've said that there are going to be 2 levels of retail businesses. Doesn't that mean that there will be supply trucks then added to that number? So that in fact we're only exacerbating the problem that already exists in this area?
Yeah, I think I was careful to say that there won't be, there will not be zero truck traffic. I think it would be significantly less. Certainly, there will be deliveries to those various uses. Generally, a larger type of retail use doesn't see, dozens of truck trips in and out of a site in a particular peak hour, which is what the current site experiences. It's more on the order of, I don't want to speculate, but
Early morning.
Right.
So, yeah, so the
Big trucks
so
in
then
there,
it'll
really.
just be more spread out, they'll have more problems through, more different times during the day.
I think unequivocally, the number of truck trips will be lower in the proposed condition than in the existing condition. To the extent that we can quantify that, we will certainly do that in further reports.
Yeah,
Yes.
and one thing, I was just gonna add to that as well. One of the things that you have when you have, and obviously, I mean, you see the general amount of retail that's been proposed. We don't know at this point, whether it would be larger retailers within there, whether the space would be broken up into a lot smaller pieces. But one of the things you have the ability to do when you own a property with multiple retail tenants is stagger deliveries, right? So you can tell a tenant, and first of all, I think it goes without saying, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, typically the retailers that have more of those deliveries that I think everyone's concerned about are more food operators like restaurants and things of that nature that have more traditional frequent deliveries, I would say. Retail services and whatnot typically don't have as much. They'll get, Amazon deliveries, UPS deliveries, just like anybody else. But when you do have multiple retail tenants, you can stagger those deliveries. You can also coordinate with them to put limitations on what types of trucks they are permitted to bring to the site.
How successful have you been with that so far?
So, I mean, generally,
I mean, we could do a live stream on my Ring camera right
all
now.
right, so again, to what's there now, it's our position, and that's why I'm happy to talk about it as much as you want. I'm really not trying to act like a jerk.
Well, I
or
mean,
be a jerk.
you can't say these
But
things don't conflate.
No, but what I can say is that it's our belief and it's our legal position that the operation that's there today is permitted to operate there today, right? So that's our property owner's legal position. What I can tell you though is to answer your question more directly about what success do you have generally, I work on a tremendous number of mixed use and commercial developments around the state. And I have tremendous success in terms of when an operator commits to something or when a property owner commits to something like staggering deliveries, like prohibiting certain size of vehicles coming, it works and because it's conditions of approval
So
and
you're positing that this is a legal business, but I think we've substantiated that the trucks that go in and out of the property are not behaving legally. They're on roads they should not be on, they're of sizes they should not be. So even if you're trying to posit that that's a legal use, the trucks that are going in and out are.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have to step in, so
I understand where it's, yeah.
I just want to be clear here, the litigation that was dismissed, I believe, without prejudice, and the agreements, and those issues are a separate issue than from what's being discussed here, and I have to advise everyone to not wane too far into the legalities that were the subject of that matter. I understand that there's an opinion on it, I understand that obviously plays a large role in this, but I really do need to caution everyone to just stay more to the presentation today and to not get too far down the legal questions that were addressed in that litigation.
But Aaron, I think it's fair to say the litigation is what's brought us here. I don't want to discuss the details of it, but the litigation is kind of what brought us here.
I don't disagree with that,
Okay,
but
that's what I'm saying.
no, yeah, no, I agree with you on that one, for the sake of,
I get it.
as your attorney, I just don't want to start to relitigate those issues, here, as part of this presentation.
Thank you. And to the councilman's point, what I will say to further that, because I think it is helpful background and it is helpful information, coming out of that litigation, there is a requirement on our part that we spend a significant amount of time and money coming up with a concept plan to be able to present to you, which, as I said at the beginning of my presentation, and I hope, whether we like this or we don't like this, I hope it's fairly evident to everybody sitting up on the dais that this is not something that was developed overnight without any thought and consideration from a truly professional team. So I think if we can at least take that premise then we presented our concept, and now it's incumbent upon us to present it to you and solicit feedback so that we can ultimately go down collaboratively through the redevelopment process as part of that.
Ben, if I may too, and I just want to clarify that, and to the councilman's point earlier, while there was a litigation, and this was a part of the process in terms of resolving that litigation, the borough is not under any obligation to merely accept a concept plan at face value. So this is merely stage one of working through that settlement, which is a presentation of a concept, and now giving the borough the opportunity to weigh in, so the parties can negotiate down to what will be a mutually beneficial concept for everybody. So when I wanted to make that point perfectly clear, that this is the presentation, this is what we're going to be doing, and we're under no obligation to just merely accept this. This is just step one of what is a longer process for the redevelopment phase.
Very well put.
Can we pivot over to the schools? Have you guys done any numbers to, I know you can't speak to 100%, but expectation?
Yep, great question. So I'll bring up Charlotte King from our planning team. Charlotte, if you want to introduce yourself and kind of get to some of that high level planning.
Good evening, Council. My name is Charlotte. I'm a planner at Civil Fuel Engineering. And of course, when looking at this concept plan, it's important to consider all the impacts, like you said, traffic, school-age children, population, and whatnot. So I did run some numbers when it comes to population increase and school-age children. And the multipliers that were used are from the Rutgers University, who lives in America's Housing. It's a well-known statewide demographic that's used to calculate school-age children. And what we got was, based on the proposed unit count, it has the potential to generate approximately 230 school-age children. But I do want to note that it is very common for these types of developments that are primarily, as you heard, majority 53%, 50%, one bedroom, two bedroom, to have fewer school-age children than anticipated. So we do not anticipate that to be a significant impact.
Can you, real quick, just clarify the question, when you say school-age children, you're talking about K to 12?
K through 12, correct.
Does the formula you use to offer a breakdown when it offers that school-age children as to what the average would be, is an X number of elementary, X number of middle school or high school, or is it just take a more generic number?
This was taken more generically, but there are further calculations that you can use to further break down those calculations, which we can look into.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as we continue on, because that factors 230 kindergartners is
Correct.
different than spread out over multiple grade levels.
This is for all K through 12 throughout the school district.
Every teacher could.
Do you have an estimate on total population outside of just school-age children for development like
Yes,
this?
so for the proposed development, for the total proposed units, and this was before we had the current breakdown of the bedroom units, and it was just kind of based off market estimates. So it had a total anticipation to generate approximately 1,900 additional persons, which one of the council members did say was to increase the population by approximately like 25%. But I will say that the benefits of this project do significantly outweigh the detriments. You have this underutilized site here that is so uniquely located. We have this bike trail that runs through the middle of the property. We have these wetlands. It's such a great opportunity to revitalize it and really represent sound planning principles that are currently listed in the 2017 master plan. Re-examination, which includes preserving, enhancing, and protecting these recreational opportunities. And there is actually a master plan goal as well to encourage higher density development along the state highways to capitalize on the borough's location of having two highways that run through around the borough, to expand the access to recreational facilities. And that is exactly what we're doing with this concept, providing these mixed-use opportunities, increasing housing opportunities. That is also a goal in the master plan. We could 100% meet the borough's affordable housing obligation. So there are so many benefits to that project, and that's what we're trying to visualize in this proposed concept that's gonna be spread out over an 18-acre site.
Going back to the parking, and just because this was a question that was asked earlier, and I know there was a bunch of back and forth, so you said it's an average of 1.5 spots per residential. Does that encompass parking schedule? I know you said additional 70, or was the additional 70 separate from that 1.5 calculation? And is there additional parking factored in for the retail component?
So there are 1,525 parking spaces proposed.
Okay.
We didn't have the unit breakdown at the time of preparation of this report, so we weren't able to conduct the RSIS calculations. So what I did was I looked at industry standard data, specifically the Institute of Transportation Engineers, their parking generation manual. The breakdown is approximately the residential parking demand is approximately 1,200 parking spaces, and the retail parking demand is 75 to 100 parking spaces. So roughly 1,300 parking space demand anticipated, and again, 1,525 parking spaces proposed. So what that tells me is that there is, based on industry standard data, no indication that the proposed development would exacerbate any existing on-street parking issues that are in the immediate vicinity of the development.
Can you expand a little bit when you say the industry standard data? Where is that, like, kind of an idea of where those numbers are coming from? Is this based on averages in this area? Is it countywide? Is it statewide in terms of other developments? Like, where does that number kind of derive from?
Sure. So the Institute of Transportation Engineers publishes, I would say, two of the most important documents in the traffic engineering world. One being the trip generation manual and the other being the parking generation manual. Both of those manuals are accepted by, widely accepted throughout the country before essentially every jurisdiction I've been before. The data sets are both nationwide. You can also, for certain types of land uses, depending on the number of studies, hone in on certain areas like the Northeast, Southwest, etc. Generally, what's accepted is to use the overall data set's numbers. So the numbers that I just cited were based on dozens of studies that have been conducted at similar types of uses. So mid-rise residential buildings, in this case mid-rise and high-rise, retail developments of this scale. So that was used to inform not just the parking generation estimates that I just testified to, but also the trip generation estimates that inform our capacity analysis.
And Andrew, to just follow up on that, because there was a question, I apologize, I forget which member of council brought this question before, about the potential for visitor parking. So given the fact that I think the numbers you quoted were, roughly 1,200 spaces required or demand per the residential unit count, as well as obviously including some additional spaces for the retail components, the commercial components, there are an overabundance, I guess, of approximately 200 to 300 spaces that would be able to be accommodated for visitors as needed, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So, and to your point, I mentioned that we hadn't conducted the RSIS calculations previously. When we do, that parking demand number might increase from what I just stated, but that's because the RSIS parking demand numbers bake in visitor parking. So when we conduct the analysis against RSIS, the numbers that we're showing as far as demand already include visitor parking. So, we feel comfortable with the parking supply based on the industry standard data. We'll also, conduct the analysis using the state standard data, and we'll fine tune the development based on those findings.
I think as we progress, part of what you've heard today is that, well, the parking is obviously a large concern, regardless of what, what that parcel is looking at. To know that that data was based on, you know, similarly situated areas that were densely populated, you know, I'm sure that there are developments that, as you kind of mentioned earlier, don't have the parking requirement because they're located in an area that already has ample parking and can kind of satisfy that need. That's gonna alter that number a little bit. So as we progress through, I think part of what the borough is gonna need to know is that parking number is based on areas that are like us, where if you leave that parcel and you were to go out here in residential neighborhoods, which is very candidly something that we need to avoid at all costs. So, and I think you guys have picked up on that tonight too, so.
Yeah, and I guess actually a follow-up to that, and I forgot, but the question had come up before regarding, I think it was actually from the engineer, regarding a concern for particular intersections and the way the site could be accessed. That's also something that gets worked on and navigated throughout the site plan process as well, correct?
Right, of course, and that would happen, you know, in coordination with your borough engineer.
Has any of the due diligence, have you looked at warrant analysis for any of those intersections as far as potentially needing a traffic signal? Do you have enough information to?
We haven't conducted it. We've thought about the need to conduct that for one of the locations that we preliminarily assessed, just based on the capacity analysis findings, particularly the intersection of Maple Place and West 4th Street might you know, warrant further study. We have not conducted that yet.
So one last question, marketing. Have you got any further on marketing about how long do you think in this project, based upon your other experience, whether this area would absorb that number of units and how long you anticipate that to be? Have you done any of that yet? Still waiting?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, this would be a phased approach, right? So you see, we've divided it into parcel A, parcel B, parcel C. So each phase would be constructed in a way that, you know, it would organically, one would start getting leased up, and then when you saw the need for phase 2, let's call it, then phase 2 would be approached. And one of the nice things as well, that I think you saw maybe on a prior slide, because each parcel has, to some degree, its own amount of parking, you don't have to worry about, you know, until we get to phase 3, for example, nobody's gonna be able to park their vehicles. Clearly, that's been baked in to this concept as well.
You don't have any definitive projections yet, is the one I'm talking about, what you anticipate to fill up these projects?
Time-wise, I don't know that we have that information yet, yeah.
Since we're on parking, can I ask one other question? Visually, I'm just trying to figure what I'm gonna see out in the world there. Is all of the parking, except for the big high-rise, underground? So when you say 4/2, the two floors of parking are underground, or are we looking at all of these are 6-story structures with the bottom 2 being parking and then?
So I think I'm gonna defer to our architect, but one thing I will say is.
There's a picture that shows.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask him to bring up, but you do also have different grades at different points, so, depending on the angle, yeah, I suspect some of it will be, fully above grade and elsewhere it might be below. But, yeah, if you wanna.
So the parking, the way the ground floor is essentially laid out, the first 2 floors, as described in the 4 and 2 concept, really creating kind of like a mezzanine of parking, so really compressing the parking back grade and the coating of the building, the base of the building. Generally, the intent is we need to orchestrate the experience along the pathway, along Main Street. And so in those key corridors, we want to bring active uses down to the ground floor. That would include, in this view, commercial, where you can see kind of the yellow canopies and awnings, but also on the residential to the left, having residential units come down to the grade. Particularly, again, as I said, like in key edges of the public, right? We want activation coming all the way down and then putting in parking on the interior of the block to the best of our ability. There are conditions where the parking is essentially on the edge of the building. We want to treat that as kind of architectural fenestration, bringing the skin of the building all the way down, kind of make it feel as a part of the building. But it's going to be a blend of those 2 strategies at the base of the building.
And just one question on numbers, because you gave a lot of numbers earlier. With parking, you said 940 units and 1,200 residential spaces. Did I hear that correctly?
I'll let Andrew speak to it, but it wasn't that we have specifically designated 1,200 as for residential versus the remaining 325 for retail. I think Andrew was speaking more to the expected demand for residential parking.
Yeah, that's correct. So the total number is 1,525 parking spaces proposed. That has not been broken up at this point, residential versus retail. The breakdown that I indicated was based on the industry standard projections for the demand for residential and retail respectively.
And Andrew, when you see some of this more, I'm gonna call it neighborhood retail, because it's really, obviously, as you heard from our architect, oriented towards that kind of walkable area. So typically, would it be your experience that with that, really the vast majority of such parking needs for the commercial really relates to maybe employees, whereas the actual patrons may not necessarily, especially if they're from within the complex itself, may not need to actually drive and utilize parking.
Yeah, what I would say is that there's, I think it was one of the first points that I mentioned, that this is a mixed-use development, and there is synergy between the residential component and the retail component. It's widely established in the industry. The technical term is internal capture, and it's just someone who lives there might choose to go to a restaurant or a retail use, essentially at the site and not have to drive there. So that reduces the total number of traffic that those respective uses are anticipated to generate. That is not 100% of the customers. 100% of the customers will not be, living at this site, but there would be a substantial reduction in both traffic demand and parking demand because of that synergy.
So you don't expect a lot of people to be coming into that? You feel like this is retail for the people who live there predominantly, not to attract other people to this development?
No. Can I try that?
Sure.
Yeah, currently the way it's designed, we're not looking at, when you make these like deep retail spaces, we're looking at more shallow retail spaces that can line from the garage. So the anticipation there is going to be more service oriented to the residents above, not looking at kind of a large restaurant that would be a magnet for large crowds, but like just everyday pedestrian oriented retail that helps activate the street and support the community above. So dry cleaners, coffee shop, those kind of things that we can bring down to the street level.
Yeah, and Councilwoman, just to add to that, obviously, that's, again, based on potential expectations. Given that we're on the bike trail, we do, and that's clearly been the focus of that retail corridor is to surround that bike trail. Yeah, I mean, we anticipate there will be likely restaurants here as well. So it's not going to be, it's definitely not exclusive for the residents. I think the point Andrew was making is that typically, if you've got, a coffee shop downstairs, or if you've got a dry cleaners, or if you've got a nail salon, I think it's fair to say that, people who live in the complex will probably frequent those.
But not like destination shopping. I mean, I think in my head, I'm picturing something like True Village where people come in because it's different stores than you would find.
So you might have that, right? What you're not going to have is a Walmart, right? You're not going to have.
No, I'm not thinking of that.
So there could be destination. It's why we're including in our parking counts the availability, especially for those 70 parking spaces that are more geared towards the retail uses. You might have that. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna reach the level of Pure Village. I think it's fair to say that we obviously, no matter what gets developed here, I think everybody, both on this side of the dais and that side, would want it to be successful. So I think, it'll be geared, especially as we get closer to the market analysis, once it's, further down the phase project, I think we'll get a better sense for maybe what tenants would do well there. But I think Andrew's only point was that you'll end up with a significant presence from the people that live there, as well as obviously, there will probably be some destination as well.
I just want to make one more comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one more comment, and it echoes back to what Councilmember Brady was saying earlier, how this, and I recognize that a lot went into this proposal, but it does not fit into the look and the feel of Keyport, nor does it really fit into the look and the feel of anything on the Bay Shore, and I agree. You would have to actually go down to Long Branch before you saw something like this. A few years back, a developer came here for a different property and proposed a large, a large project that did echo what is in Long Branch, and residents at that time universally, no matter what their political affiliation was, came out and said, no, that's not what we want in this community. Now, I find it difficult to believe that there would be that radical a change among our residents in that short a period of time. I do not think that our residents want something like this in our community.
Could I piggyback on that? You have been bad neighbors. Okay? You have profited off of your property on the misery of our citizens. And it's, you know, if you get awoken at 3 a.m. with a tractor trailer that took down a telephone pole and all of this happened, you have no understanding and no consideration for this neighborhood, for this town, for these people.
Got an air conditioner across
And
the
if
street.
you think
All hours of the night.
this was a rough hearing, wait a word for this gets out. It's gonna look like the Frankenstein movie with the pitchforks and the torches. I can guarantee you that. And I think a lot of people feel exactly the sentiment that I'm expressing to you. You have done nothing to convince us you want to be good neighbors.
I appreciate it, and I will
There you
just. I mean, I don't think that's fair, but that's fine. I have a thick skin, I can take it. But what I will say is that, again, why I don't think it's fair to say that, investing hundreds of thousands of dollars to comply with a consent order and appear before you to propose something that we believe will alleviate those concerns is definitely an effort, whether you see
And
that.
once again, what have you done, what has anybody from your team done to alleviate our concerns at the present moment? Nothing, which you admitted. So how can we expect you to all of a sudden become knights in shining armor or something? You're not, okay?
Okay.
Just for the architect, because I look at a lot of projects, so sometimes when you sit at a desk and look at something, I know you talked about wanting the water tower to be a feature, attractive feature. Be very. Just think about it, with a 20-story building, that's gonna be, that water tower's not gonna attract anyone.
The water tower is about 120 feet.
Water tower being the shadow.
I'm not trying to be critical, I was just saying, it's a good, it's all before and said, you want the water tower to be.
Okay, we don't have any more questions.
I have just one last one. I always have, but this will truly be my last. And you came here tonight to speak to Keyport, right? And one of the things you regularly highlighted, every single one of you, was the Henry Hudson Trail. And really trying to incorporate that. So my question is, what kind of conversation have you had with the county, since that's obviously theirs?
Yeah, so I think preliminarily, I'll defer to our engineering team. I don't think it's been a high-level conversation. I think they're aware of this. It's obviously, it's actually a parcel between there, right? So it does belong to them. We will have to comply with whatever it is they request, but anything that's on our property itself is on our property, and what the county would be looking more to regulate is ensure that there's no encroachments on their property that they don't agree with. Anything that we are proposing on their property particularly, even if it's as much as, you know, landscaping upgrades, things like that, if they feel it requires some sort of franchise ordinance or agreement, obviously we would have to do that and be subject to it. But Vicky, if you want to speak a little bit more.
I could just add to that, we requested any mapping for any easements, dedications, maintenance areas from the county. As again, we were looking into this development to see if there's any buffer or setback. Again, it's a different property, but just in case there's any, again, maintenance easements or anything like that, we did request any of that information from them.
As far as we're aware, there's nothing like this along the trail, right? That may not be a question for you, that may be more of a question for the council. There's nothing like this along the trail now.
Along the Henry Hudson Trail.
Right.
That
Not
is
a
an,
picture.
in Keyport, no, but that is an extraordinarily long trail that goes
Right.
throughout the entire county. So I couldn't answer with any kind of certainty as to what
Yeah.
other developments are.
Just part of the historical, like, kind of gauge.
I think
what the-
partially close is, I don't know if you drive down around exit, you know, it's an exit 120, there's some projects there that might be kind of similar. And that would be maybe off as you go around the bend, as you come over the parkway off to the left. But, so if you guys want to drive up through those, that might give you an idea of what the scale is when you get close.
Yeah, and the purpose obviously of our proposal with that trail is to make it the central feature of this development, you know, for people experiencing from inside. I think it's a nice thing to do, not, you know, like I said before, we don't treat it as a bug, we treat it as a feature of our.
Do you know the units, are there in that project off 120 there?
I don't know the numbers off that. I was looking around. The closest kind of analog I can think of
I'm
to
gonna
this.
ask you if you could just stay to the side.
Sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Closest comparison I can think of to this that I don't think it quite integrates the development as much as the as much as you're talking about here, but would probably be in Matawan off 34 and Broad Street. There's a few mid-rises at that intersection that parallel the trail, but don't exactly
I don't think it's a
incorporate
bad
it.
idea, I just wasn't sure, without having the county's feedback, what they're interested in.
Yeah, and we, you know, to be fully frank, obviously, we need a full meeting with them, we need their full approval, and even after, you know, any formal approval of any project on this site by the municipality, we have to go to the county and you know, and get their sign off.
Another stakeholder I would recommend is JCP&L, because they do
Yeah.
have, they do have the right of way, they do have distribution lines that go along there. And I believe
Yes.
they're planning to upgrade those soon, so that could be less aesthetically pleasing, you know, row, you know, monopoles or something of that nature,
And-
running right through the middle.
It's still gonna be our goal to work with that to enhance it, because this ultimately should be a nicer feature, and the trail exists, and it's meant to be a bike path, and, you know, we'd like to make that, you know, nice.
Okay, does council have any other questions? Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your time this evening, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna continue with the council meeting. Does the council have any questions on the consent agenda before we go into the public? Because I know I have a couple on the payment of bills.
Yeah, I just, that's it. Not really like that either, is it?
Well,
236 is this,
this is for the taco
Yeah.
and the zoning
I
officer?
don't know where that came from, I'm just kind of confused. I have a problem, having a resolution that lists two full-time jobs. You can't really have two full-time jobs, and just in my experience, that's something that's gonna come back and bite me. I understand with civil service, we can have, you know, I would think the construction office is the primary job, and you have an additional job attached to that, but the way this resolution reads, they're both full-time jobs, and I don't quite get that.
My understanding was, and then obviously, Councilman, this was before I came on board, my understanding was that the intent of this position was to sort of be a hybrid position.
Yeah.
So we got a letter from pensions stating that it had to be one or the other. And again, the borough's intent with this position was that it was going to be a combined position. That's why we're coming back with, to the council with this resolution.
She's been holding both of these positions, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's just,
She's been,
You're formalizing.
yes, she's been acting in
No
the
problem with the position, just the resolution itself says they're both full-time positions, so that's my concern. At some point, the borough determines that the zoning law is not a full-time position, so just let me understand. Hector, you told me pension says you have to list them both, so you're gonna put in you're gonna put her in twice?
I think what we're trying to do is clarify with pensions that it was the intent of the borough is for it to be a dual position, if you will.
But then why do you say they're both full-time? That's my question.
One is in a full-time position.
Well, it's, how do I put this? It's a dual position, so, you know, so she's actually acting in two, what would have been two full-time positions.
So,
Okay, no,
so,
is this what pension wanted to see? Like, they wanted it written like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just never experienced this, so that's, I just never saw
It
this.
is a little bit.
Aaron, can you
You
speak
can
on
have a
this?
dual position.
yeah, I'm sorry, so I just want to clarify, so pensions, what the purpose of this is to point out the pensions that she's serving as a dual role. So I think maybe the solution to this is to amend the resolution before going to just that they desire her to reflect her status as a dual role of her current position in these two titles. Because to Jonathan's point, to have her hold two full-time positions I don't think that's quite what civil service is looking for. But to your point, they need to know that she holds those positions.
Correct.
Yes, so, what the council can do is they can, if they so choose, they can amend the resolution before voting on it to amend it from saying that she holds two full-time statuses to she holds as a full-time or dual roles of her current position and then this technical assistant position. Yeah.
So change full-time to dual role position?
Make that position.
Yeah, so this would be,
You think that pension will be okay with that before we go ahead and vote on it?
yeah, so what we would do is we would be resolution and then the second motion would then be to adopt the resolution.
Right, no, I understand that. Troy is gonna satisfy whatever
To
they're.
answer your question,
Yeah.
there's no guarantee that this is going to pass
Either.
muster anyway.
Fair,
You know,
okay.
what we're trying to do is honor what I believe
Okay.
was the intent of the council.
Okay.
Just had another one on resolution 233. When we retain the engineer, it's like we retain the attorney, I'm assuming we do it pursuant to an RFP or RFQ of some kind. So I get confused as to why we list these, when they do individual projects, why we list this as non-fair and open. That's not how I understand it has to be. It's just, for example, for the attorney, we hire the attorney as the borough attorney, we sign to do litigation in some particular item. We don't go out and do an RFP just for that work. So I'm kind of confused why we list this for the engineer, because it puts them in a whole different category. Affects them at the state level, I'm sorry.
I had a chance to talk to Aaron about this, and I think we straightened it out.
Yeah, so my take on it was that there's the generic contract that we've already awarded, to your point. This is a separate project altogether that we are going through the non-fair and open process where it's being done pursuant to our current engineering firm. So this project being separate from that contract required a separate contract.
Then you realize that then it's gonna be non-fair and open, so you realize there's something else they have to fill out. They have to make sure they comply with the state, and I don't know if that's.
Yeah, the non-fair and open is our process. Their process with the state would remain the same for any, it's a separate agreement for them, so they still have to follow their.
It's
I understand what you're
my understanding, you have to have them sign, they have to sign something with us,
The financial disclosure, sure.
Yeah.
if that's what we're gonna do. That's what you're obligated, that's what we're obligated to do.
Yeah.
So I just wanna make sure that's not necessarily fair to them, they may prefer we put it out to bid.
We can review it. I mean, if you are welcome to, if you so choose, we can again pull this resolution and we can table it to the next, to the next meeting, so then we can.
I don't have an issue with that.
That's
Okay.
239, right?
It's something I think we need to take care of because it
Yeah.
changes, my position is, what I do if the engineer is retained and we retain him to do work, we hired him in a fair and open process. I don't think you need to do RFPs each time to be able to determine that if they're not fair and open, but I think it's something we need to take a look at for that.
It's not gonna affect the project timeline at all?
No.
Okay, do we have a motion to table R 26-233?
Second.
Show roll call. Councilmember Brady? Yes. Councilmember Bergen?
Yes.
Councilmember Kynes?
Yes.
Council President McNamara?
Yes.
Councilmember Merla?
Yes.
And Councilmember Pecora?
Yes.
Thank you.
And what do we do?
Okay, I have a couple of questions. I have a few questions. So on the payment of bills, Hector, coastal air conditioning, what was that for, senior building? Okay, I have a few others. Regarding direct deposit, payroll checks, we're still doing payroll checks, not direct deposit with everybody?
There are just
I'm
the
still
last
getting
few
mine.
holdouts. Yes.
Okay.
I submitted the paperwork, but.
Okay, the other question I have is regarding the pavilion.
Doesn't matter how.
I know that it's on there for payment, but when is this pavilion supposed to be installed? I know we've been talking about it for a
Have
few
it on my,
years.
have it on my administrator's work, but I will give you the sneak peek. Within, I believe we are going to mobilize next week, right?
When
Demolition.
you say
foot-
mobilize, you're gonna, yeah. take it.
So
Okay.
we're looking at demolition and footings next week, the unit being delivered the following week. Believe we'll have this wrapped up by Labor Day.
So they'll be under construction by Labor Day, delivery is gonna happen next week, and then demolition and footings foundations follow the week after, so same thing, just flip-flop. And then,
So in the meantime, you get rid of the old one and get rid of the float.
yeah, so our contractor, Borough's contractor is gonna be getting rid of the old gazebo, and I'll talk to DPW, I'll talk to Steven about, the float that's down there right now. We are gonna work with the contractor to make sure we can limit the amount of space they take up in the boat ramp parking lot, just to limit the impact of parking.
So wait, so this is payment estimate number 1. So this is the full payment or it's half the payment?
This is
This is,
portion.
this is just a payment for the,
Wait, so-
just for the materials.
Okay, this is the materials only.
Correct.
And just so the public's aware, it's all covered through grants that we've previously gotten.
Yes, I believe this is a $161,000 grant through CDBG, covering maybe so. It's, prefab does a lot of work there, but they still have to do it once it comes to site.
So R 2026-236 is the one that we're actually going to amend the resolution.
And I just have one question on the building. Actually, the K-99 rear window, is that the brand new truck for the DPW?
Yes.
And on that rate?
I'm sorry, one more time?
The K-99 rear window,
You know, I don't know, but I will find out for you.
Any other questions before we go?
I just wanna share some stuff on the payment bills with the public, because I know a lot of folks go in and look at it. So there were some questions that I asked, so I'm assuming other people might be curious. There was, a close to $20,000 workout equipment, that's for the police department, that was 100% funded through a wellness grant from the state, so when you see that. Everybody went nuts for years complaining about Park Street, and so, we do see a $50,000, Clark Street cost share, we did that with Hazlet, right?
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask that you hold on to that. I'm going to ask that you pull that from.
Pull that one?
Clark Street.
Okay.
I apologize, I missed it.
That's on page 4.
Where's the equipment from? Downstairs or? Yes.
See if there's anything else. And just, I out of curiosity, right, there's a $22,000 payment for Open Trust, Open Space Trust expenses, and it's specifically Green Trust loan for the Ralph Pier. And so, I think we're down to the last 1.5 years approximately on that, so, we're in the home stretch. Yeah, we'll start some other work, but, yeah. But I think when we have some of these big items, it's nice to have a little background on, all right, so we're gonna hold
Please.
the Hazlet.
I imagine we'll be back at the next meeting.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions on, consent, I don't know. if anyone else
Kathleen, I
does.
do.
Okay,
I'd like to pull R 2026-240 for separate consideration.
And I also have a question. On 232, the contract for Main Street Utility Reconstruction, I've had a number of people who have questioned because it's a big ticket item. And so now I was wondering if you could give an explanation to residents about the necessity for this work.
Sure. So there's an existing, so this is specifically looking at the intersection of West Front Street and Main Street, right, the intersection right where Keyport Pizza is. There's a sanitary sewer manhole. You open up the sanitary sewer manhole, you'll see that there is a water main that runs from the top of the manhole. That water main also happens to be leaking. So from a regulatory standpoint, that opens up a potential pathway for cross-contamination between water and sewer. There's no caution under normal operating circumstances of the water and sewer systems. There's a low risk of any cross-contamination happening. You really have to have a situation where the sewer manhole backs up to such a point that it's putting that water main underwater, and also at the same time have a reduction in pressure in the water main that could be from, Keyport does have a lot of water main breaks, so if there's a water main break nearby, that could cause a loss in pressure. If you have a fire nearby where the fire department needs to open up fire hydrants, that could also cause a loss in pressure. So there is a world in which this could pose a real risk to health. So that's why, after learning of this, we chose to prioritize this as an isolated repair to make, rather than waiting for a larger water and sewer project to come down the road. That said, the money that's going into this is approximately $214,000 contract to realign that water main outside of the manhole. All the improvements that go in for that, those are gonna be permanent, they're not gonna be temporary, those are gonna be things that we build off of in future water and sewer projects.
And then the other important part to understand is that the water, clean water leaking into our sanitary system, we've been paying for it.
You're paying for it twice, actually.
Correct.
Unrealized revenue and then.
So it is an important project, but also it's sort of a stop the bleeding, if you will.
Right, right, so that the improvements will be financial, we pay less for the clean water that we should have to be cleaning, and also there is the possibility of contamination of drinking water, is that correct?
Correct.
I just wanna make sure that that's clear to everyone.
And also just so governing bodies aware, what we understand is, West Front Street, Main Street, it's a busy intersection, so all this work is contractually set up to be done tonight. So it really didn't get back to the downtown.
You know, on the resolution today, just on the last one, that, interlocal with the county for the tax stuff, I've reviewed it a bit with Matt, and I don't think they can match that cost, but I wanna talk a little bit more about this contract, because the numbers in it don't make any sense to me.
I don't think that there's any hurry to do it, so if you want to.
No, because we can get out of it in 90 days, but I'm just saying, they're projecting 100, I think 150. I don't know if that's our number, if that's a
I looked
countywide number,
at
but
it
it's.
deeper, just for clarification, because I saw that it was like $130,000 a year that the county was covering, blah, blah, blah. But if you look in detail, that's for all 53 municipalities.
That's what we're trying to figure, that's what we're trying to figure.
Yeah, it says also for all 53, yeah.
So you want to-
As long as we get out of the 90 days, that's what I'm saying, fine, I didn't realize we could get out of it, so I looked at it today, we get out in 90 days, so you and I will talk a little bit more about it. I just wanna make sure our engineer couldn't do it any cheaper.
Oh, yeah, it's like $2,500.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Whole question.
No, I don't mean that, yeah, okay.
You just wanted to make
So,
sure.
yeah,
You-
no, that's not good. So, this is just for a vote to amend the resolution R 26236 with the changing from full-time status to dual position.
Second.
Councilmember Brady?
Yes.
Councilmember Bergen? Yes. Councilmember Khan?
Yes.
Council President McNamara?
Yes.
Councilmember Merla?
Yes.
And Councilmember Pecora?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and do we have a motion to pull for separate consideration R 26-240?
If you don't need a motion to that.
Yeah. Good. Okay, we have a motion to open to the public. Motion.
Second.
Okay. So this is on the consent agenda only, so if anyone's here to talk about Cass Street or even about Aeromarine, this is that's the end portion. Okay. Colette?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mr. Herrera, Colette Kennedy, 421 Atlantic Street. As a follow-up to the resolution that you were just talking about, R 26-232, for authorizing the award contract for Main Street utility reconstruction. I have a couple questions, which would be actually following up with what the engineer just said, so I'm going to address. But when was this problem identified?
Matt, can you speak on that?
This was identified at the end of last year.
Okay, so if it was that much of an imminent danger, why didn't we go out right then and there and bring in an emergency contractor? Because what I'm hearing out of what was just told, these are a lot of could be's, and could be's, and could happen, and could happen, and could happen. But yet, have the pump station on First Street been installed yet? And has the storm drain issue on Osborne been addressed yet? All of those are issues causing flooding to our businesses that you guys are all aware of. I forwarded an email after hearing from one business owner after the July 8th flooding. I spoke with him or her on 13th to hear that, oh, we didn't know this was a problem. Or maybe it's our grease trap. Or maybe, and there's a lot of pointing fingers. So what I did is I forwarded all of you that email thread from August of 2022 where all of these things are identified. And why those projects have been paused, I don't know. So to see something come on the agenda for a could-be problem, when we know identified problems exist, I'm asking you to really reconsider this. I think this should be paused. I understand that these bids were open on July 7th. July 8th, our entire municipality was almost completely underwater because of projects that have not moved forward since 2023. I really do not think that this is the priority.
Thank you. Anybody else? John?
John Morella, 34 Broad Street, Keyport. Regarding 2026-232, the award for Main Street Utility, is that being funded by a grant?
It is not.
So where would the funding be coming from? The water sewer utility?
Come from the water sewer utility.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Since it goes through a county road, have we approached the county to maybe help us with the cost?
Not specifically, they wouldn't cover any costs related to the water and sewer. So that is that's on the borough. Is the
And we need paper sidewalks or curbs.
I know that. This is a little bit more, I would think a little bit more serious than a sidewalk.
Just a question on that, so the council already authorized you to prepare bid specifications and put this project out to bid, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't have.
The other item is 2026-233. I know you took it off the agenda, but Council President McNamara forwarded the public last time something was taken off the agenda to at least speak to it, so you didn't have to go back after it was passed the following meeting. And I noticed that's not on this meeting, but I'd like to ask if I could speak to that. Only because on 233, the resolution authorizing the 49,800 for the LSRP, it doesn't identify a person. We're just identifying a title. Shouldn't we be in that resolution?
We're using a firm, though.
We are
Identifying
using,
the firm.
so they're doing it?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure because it said they were giving a fee and then there was another fee, but all right, now that makes sense. Let me ask you this though, Matt. On March 12th, 2024, the borough administrator at the time, Tim Humphrey, received a correspondence from your firm, and it said, as a condition of Green Acres funding, NJDEP requires that the subdivision be perfected prior to releasing reimbursements on future projects, including Fireman's Park Promenade extension. So we're all satisfied with that? Like, when we put in for money, we've satisfied the DEP?
So we just have to perfect that subdivision with the county. It's been approved by the planning board. That was supposed to go to the county for final approval. But we have time before that happens because reimbursements for this project don't come into play until the project's complete. So we're probably looking at sometime in mid-2027.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else?
This gentleman right here.
Mike, 1 second, Mike. Jeffrey? I see he had his hand up.
Jeffrey Steiger, 49 2nd Street, 232. You said that was discovered in 2024.
2000 ends of last year, the fall of last year.
Did that have anything to do with the leak that when they built that new building on the, right there, right Front Street, that big monstrosity?
I can't say, I'm not sure when it actually started, so.
Hopefully, yeah. All right, and when if it does get approved and it starts, how long is that project gonna take then?
We're estimating, I think to be conservative, probably 2 weeks, but given the amount of work, I think probably.
How long is the construction gonna be, halfway down each block? And
No, it's gonna be,
contained.
we're
right
trying to
there?
isolate this as much as possible because we want future phases of this project to be funded by grants. Just within the intersection.
Okay. And I had some questions about the bills. You had a renewal of a program license for just under 10 grand.
What number are you looking at?
It's page 2, second item down. It's Carcial Technology. What is that for? Is that for the police department? Or?
Page 2, State of New Jersey, 10,216.90, is that what you're looking at? Number 26-00917?
No.
What number are you looking at?
Page 2, no, the second one down on page
I'm
2.
looking at page 2, I did the other page 2. Are you sure it's page 2? That's payroll.
Oh no, then it's the next page 2 then.
9,147? Well, I need a number. So that we can-
CA0004.
What is it?
CA0004.
Oh, Carasoft Technology for 9,147, renewed program for licensed software.
Yes.
Okay, Hector, can you speak on that?
I can't right now, but I will get you
It's coming out of the fire department budget.
Yeah.
Right, but he's just asking what it is, so.
Probably certifications of Scott packs, but it can't. be.
That's what I think, yeah, so I think it
For
is.
software for Scott?
It says software.
They- That may be how they bill it, but I can't.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, a tough time finding.
Maybe the
It's
people that come in and
page
they
two
certify that.
Of the third,
The
page
vendor.
2. Yeah.
Bridge auto supply is the first thing on that page.
It's 26
I can-
00845.
If I don't get it to you before the end of the day, before the end of the meeting, I will get it to you.
All right, should I email you tomorrow to remind you?
Yeah, if I don't get
Hopefully
it.
you remember this time.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
thank you.
All right, anybody else? Mike?
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. You have on the agenda payment of bills having to do with the I apologize, my handicap is really acting up today. The
Somebody that wants maybe something to help them?
There's a bill payment of $189,000, and it has to do with open space. Now, that was a bond ordinance, right?
What page are you on, Mike, so that, do you know, I have 32.
It's 26/231.
R 26/231.
Oh, it's a resolution not payment of bills,
Right.
okay.
And it has,
That's for the shared service agreement between the Borough of Keyport and the County of Monmouth for the I-tax map, is that what you're talking about?
no, it has to do with open space bond payment. I looked it up, and it says it has to do with open space bond payment.
Look at 89,000 change.
Pardon?
Is that the pier?
No.
That was 22.
The open space was the Benjamin Terry Park area. And when we worked that area. And there's a bond which we are paying. And it's in the budget for $189,398.
Mike, do you know the number? Here. Hector, were you able to?
It's this.
No, he has it.
It's the last.
Oh,
231.
62,000.
that's the, no.
No, if you look further down, open space trust fund.
There's 189,398.05, he's saying on the last page, which is the open space trust fund.
Right.
Let's go to the back.
Right. And so that's a bond, and we have to pay off that bond. And so for how many years will we be paying this amount? $189,000 a year.
It should be a bond, like.
Yeah, it is a bond.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't know, we're paying any bond principal.
What he's looking at is that last page is a summary of your bills.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So that's what he's saying.
It's, everything's paid out of open space, that's the
Correct.
total of everything paid out of open space.
So
I
you're
mean,
saying
paying the
it's a
bills.
bond,
This is where it's being
or are you
charged.
asking
Yeah.
if it's a bond?
This is where it's being charged to.
Pardon?
This is the account that's being charged to. This is a summary of the payment of bills.
It's not just for one, it's for multiple items that are on there.
So for example, Mike, it includes the money that's going through from the grant for the pavilion, was a few, which was, I think, 162,000. The other open space items, There's the here and the trust, we can go along,
Yeah, the lawn service, that's
I'm gonna have to get some-
$4,700.
I will obviously have to get some coaching.
Yeah, Mike, there's several things on here. You also have the state of New Jersey, the Green Trust loan, the
Like
well
that
here.
that last page is a summary of what
everything that's
accounts,
on
what accounts they're being charged from the payment.
So that's a summary. Okay, then, the Fireman's Park bond. The 5 million, is that still on the agenda tonight?
What number are you looking at, Mike?
Any number, choose that one.
The 5 million. This was to,
233.
He's going back to the. He's doing the summary at the end.
there was a resolution, I should kick myself when I get writing the number down, that had to do with spending, 500,000 on the, Fireman's Park. Is that still on the agenda for tonight?
For 233?
This is for the Fireman's Park, the bulkhead, the promenade?
Yeah.
That was resolution, 233, that was tabled. That is no longer a part of the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. I'll just mention one thing, and I'll cover it in more detail at the end of the meeting. The proposal earlier for the redevelopment.
Mike, we're gonna talk about that at the end.
Yeah, I know, but I'm gonna talk about it at the end, but the one thing I wanna, this council manages the borough. You really need to start to evaluate whether the water plant is gonna be able to handle. We're already looking at 2,000 new units, more than 2,000.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else? Okay, Elmer?
I'm J. Graham, 22 St. Peter's Place. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of Borough Council. Good evening, everyone tonight. I have one question. Resolution 2026-231, can you more or less explain that?
That's the shared service agreement between the Borough of Keyport and the County of Monmouth. Hector, you can explain that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, which one was this one?
231 for the shared service.
Oh, yeah, that's the county is, it's a shared service agreement with the county who would handle our, maintenance of our tax map.
Okay. And it's just,
This is a renewal.
you have to renew it once every year, right?
Every couple of
years. Again?
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
The borough subdivides a property, creates a new lot, they update the maps for us.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Resolution 2026-236. We need to appoint a technical assistant to the construction official and zoning officer.
He's already doing them.
We just fixed the language, right?
Just fix
She's
the
already doing
language.
the job, there's no change.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we pulled for second consideration, R 26-240. Okay. So do we have a motion to amend R 26-236? That's what we did. Yeah, you're like Carol last week. Last time Carol did the same thing, and then you made me think that I did something wrong.
Sorry, in fairness, I'm making a lot. Never mind. I just wanna make sure we're staying on point.
Okay. You just tested us. So R 26-240, do we have a motion? Well, actually, for separate consideration, do we
have a motion to approve.
What do you wanna do then?
You said we didn't need it.
So,
Well, we don't need to approve it, it's a separate consideration.
Yeah, sorry, so that motion, because it was pulled, it has to be pulled and amended and then voted on separately.
Right.
So we would vote, we can do the consent agenda first, absent that one, and then just take that as a separate, whatever, you can vote on this first and then just do the remaining consent agenda.
I would like to do this one first and then go on to the remainder.
This is resolution 240.
240, yes.
Wait, 240 or 236?
I'm sorry, I thought we were.
240.
So 236 we're gonna leave as amended as a part of the consent agenda, 240 is pulled for a separate consideration. So we'll do the separate considerations first, so that's one, two.
So my concern is, we have two appointees to the KVPC, and I noticed Danielle Puccini, wrote a letter. She appears to, as a realtor, I think she understands the concerns of the KVPC and the operation. The other one, we didn't have a letter on last time, and the letter that he wrote was just that he would like to be a part of the KVPC, as he thinks they do good things, and I just wanna make sure people coming on to the KVPC understand actually what the functions of the KVPC are. So, has anybody, you mentioned, well, let's put it this way, if all we're gonna do in the KVPC is events, we might as well just turn everything over to rec. So I'd like to make sure that people understand
Go ahead and speak.
what it is.
No, I said we're busy enough. He's supposed to know that.
Well, we'll get you some more help. But, so I'd like to at least talk to this person and see that they understand the functions.
So do you want-
weeks to go down there as well?
Well, actually, I was away 1 week, and, I didn't make it, okay?
No, I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
Did you talk to Danielle?
No, but as a realtor, I would imagine if she has the capacity to think outside the borough, and what needs to be done.
So that's somebody you could talk to him.
I would say so. And there's no reflection on the gentleman, my fault, I didn't get the call.
No, but I'm saying, you sit on the KVPC, you know how we wanna fill these seats, and then we get people to fill them on, and this is what we're gonna go through every single meeting.
Well, actually, we have 3 people that they asked to. And,
Yeah, but they're waiting again.
right, and but there are a number of problems with the KBBC, right, that have been.
There's a number of problems with everything else too, go ahead.
So don't you want, and this goes not just for KBBC, but for every one of our entities, we want the people who actually are going to do the job.
Right, you just appointed somebody to the Harbor Commission and missed their second meeting, Go ahead.
Third meeting.
Second.
Guys, on the KVPC, how do you, when people don't get voted in, they have all these empty seats, because I know, went to a couple of
Wait,
meetings.
you have to see.
Now, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, how do you, who just,
It's
you
very
reach
hard
out to
to
people, I know,
it's
but I
very
don't
hard
know,
with a lot of
you write
people.
letters to businesses, you look at different types of things, you just
We-
go around and just ask people, do you
Rob,
find some people?
I can tell you right now, it's not easy.
No, and so that's basically what.
Well, it's one resident and the rest is business, and a lot of them all work, they don't.
Some reach out to us, and also some, we reach out.
You reach out sometimes.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's a combination of both. I guess it's the same as
It's
recreation
hard.
or anything else, volunteer positions, because even though they're a board member, it's hard to get people on board, I'm sure you know that.
That was their elections, you have elections every year on this? so-
Yes,
So that's gonna be coming up next September?
they come at the end of the month, like by November, and then Jeff, Mr. Straub could answer that.
So, listen, there's,
So what do you wanna do first? That's what we're asking.
Aaron just suggested we table, but let's put it this way, there are problems with the KVBC, and I appointed them on, and everybody knows I have. I don't see any action to resolve these problems, and no reflection on the people of the board, but when I sit at the end and look up and down, I don't see the skill sets that need to carry out what the ordinance and the bylaws call for. I mean, like, excuse me? There are problems with the KVBC, and we need to fill it with people who can resolve those problems.
So do you wanna table this?
Let's
That's
just
what I'm
table it for
asking.
now.
So Mayor, if you want to table, then we would need a motion to table.
Correct. Do we have a motion to table R 26-240?
Motion.
Second. Michelle?
Councilmember Brady?
Yes.
Councilmember Bergen.
Just what I said, then this is so you can just so you can talk to this person, that's what we're doing?
That's what he's doing.
You want to finally talk to them, you're gonna go talk to them?
This is just one of the many problems with the KBC system. So yeah, I will talk to him, but we need to, we can talk about this later. So.
Okay, if you're gonna talk to them, then yes, I'll give you a chance to talk to them, I'll vote yes.
So I'll make a motion to table.
We have a motion on the floor. We're in a second, we're in a second.
Michelle's doing a roll.
Yes.
Councilmember Kine.
Yes.
Council President McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Merla.
No.
And Councilmember Pecora.
I have to say, I didn't see this level of discussion when people would know when I was just a resident, going for the municipal alliance. And so, yes.
Thank you, resolutions.
Okay.
I'll make the motion on the consent agenda.
Yes, and then you,
Wait a second, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
we have to pull that thing off.
Yeah. Right, so do we have a motion for R 2026-230 to approve through R 2026-241 minus what we've actually pulled and tabled
So it'd be minus 240, minus 233, and it would be 236 as amended.
as amended?
Motion.
Second.
Michelle?
Councilmember Brady. Yes. Councilmember Bergen.
Yes.
Councilmember Kine.
Yes.
Council President McNamara. Yes. Councilmember Merla.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pecora.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have introduction of ordinance Harbor Commission Yacht Club member. Michelle, will you read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance amending chapter 2, boards, commissions, and committees by amending subsection 2-7.1 Harbor Commission of the Code of the Borough.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to introduce?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brady.
Yes.
Councilmember Bergen.
Yes.
Councilmember Kine.
Yes.
Council President McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Merla.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pecora.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, approval of minutes, July 21st, 2026. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, old business, handicap parking space at Teresa Street. Councilman Merla?
Yeah, we talked about that last time, I was holding off on that.
So we have no idea yet.
No, we're going to be, it's gonna be,
Are you removing it?
we're gonna, yeah, so no sense of going back and forth with this,
So we're not doing anything with it, you don't have enough.
we don't know if it's that.
Okay. Resident parking permit, Division and Osborne, Councilmember Merla?
Chief is still working
Still
on it,
working.
and getting with Mac, looked at some of the property over there, so we wanna,
I don't have any updates.
no update on it.
Okay.
We wanna explain to the, people, Mac, like, what the plan with the parking, like, you know, you looked at it with the easement and everything.
Yeah, so that would be the intersection, that would be the southwest corner of the intersection of Division Street and Hurley Street. There's a small piece of borough property at that corner. It's a little deceiving when you look at it from the street because it does look bigger than it is because the lot that fronts on Broad Street actually has a double frontage.
Right.
So the borough's corner is only about 35 feet by 85 feet. So we took a look at it. If the borough did want to add parking there, we figured you'd probably be able to pick up about 7 or 8 parking spaces, head-on parking spaces off of Hurley Street. If the borough wanted to look at potentially acquiring the balance of the vacant portion of that lot and entering into an easement agreement with the property owner, you could probably not quite double that number, maybe 15 to 16 parking spaces. So
And
that's.
you had mentioned that when we were doing the Division Street, there would be paving, we were thinking about maybe adding that on to the list at that time when the contractor was there.
Correct, so if that's something the governing body would be interested in, we could always add those seven or 8 head-on parking spaces.
We're gonna make that discussion, I think, it would be the discussion that the council would probably, at that time, would want to construct. When is the construction gonna, begin there?
That's gonna be going out to bid shortly within the month, we're just working out
So
some
I think it
details.
would be
with the
good.
school.
So
That's not just an overlay, right? That's not gonna just be an overlay.
No, that's gonna be a full reconstruction with utilities on that end of the street.
That, actually, do you have an estimated cost roughly
roughly, probably about $25,000 to $30,000 to buy about 8 parking spaces. That would be fully paid parking spaces.
And then just so you all know, that would help out the people, that would help the people out on Division Street that have.
Grading, that's everything?
that have-
This is pretty limited, because we're just really bumping the curb line off of Hurley
Oh,
Street
that's what
for,
it is, okay.
for head-on parking spaces, so.
Behind you about.
Yeah, no, it is, I just wasn't sure.
And if the borough would like us to, we can include that as a bid alternate on the contract, and then decide once the prices come in, if it's something that you want.
What do you guys, you
And-
guys?
But alternate doesn't hurt, just give a price.
I'm saying this.
So if every guy bids 5,000 because he wants the job, who knows?
Right, and, so when we were going back and forth about this, you did say, about $30,000 for the 8 paved spaces, which seems, to me, just a more reasonable, suggestion. But you did say that it would be better to pave than to just throw down gravel. And, that was because of the upkeep, the problem with upkeep.
I think from a long-term maintenance standpoint, plowing is a good point too, striping the spaces.
And so what would the difference in cost be, approximately, would you say?
Trying to remember if I ran the numbers with gravel, but just off the top of my head, we'd probably only be saving maybe, $5,000 in paving.
Okay,
Really,
okay.
the major cost is getting the contractor there, which they're already paving the street, that's
Okay.
not a huge additional cost, but, the step up from blacktop and gravel with all the other ones, they're gonna be marginal, more or less.
Well, you might get lucky, the contractor that wants to get a little bit, they throw it in, sometimes you get lucky.
Do the whole street?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Councilman, just so you're aware too, I've been working with Hector, and my office is also working through the ordinance there, as I know there was, questions about residential permit parking up and down, Osborne Street as well, so. we can
Right,
walk
that's a
up on it.
continuation because it's the one
Yeah.
way and one way out.
Yeah, so we are in the process of working through that, and I'm happy to meet with you in the next week or two to kind of get through it.
Okay, short-term rentals, Council President?
Next time.
Street closure, Councilmember Brady.
I did send comments back to Hector, but concerned he's on vacation, isn't really good, so. Same thing.
Councilmember Papour, prepare Hurley Street lot for parking, that's part of this.
That's what we
That's
were
what
just
just
talking
talked
about.
about, and the storm drain issue.
Okay, and the storm drain issue, so, we have gotten a lot of feedback from residents, because of these storms in the past couple of weeks. And, we have, started to plot out a map of where the trouble areas are, throughout town. And, we do have a meeting coming up, to discuss a multi-pronged approach to trying to alleviate some of the issues, with, the stormwater. So, some of those ideas are the regular cleaning out of storm drains and, planning for regular maintenance. We are talking about dredging. There are other towns like Hazlet, getting involved in some of the water management, and also down the line, we're trying to determine what infrastructure improvements are actually needed. So, a lot of these issues have really gone unaddressed for a long time, and so we're just trying to come up with a comprehensive plan to make things better for residents and try to work on some of the flooding issues. So that is all in the works. And I know there's nothing on new business, but there is one thing that did come up, and it came up on social media, and people are talking about it. There's a rodent issue on Kearney Street. They're very lively down there. Anyway, residents have brought up the issue, so I just want residents to know that I'm trying to address it. We need to know where these rats are nesting. So if there are residents who have any inkling about where the nesting spots might be, just give a jingle, and we might be able to, address it a little more directly. But there are some best practices to keep away rodents if you are one of the people having trouble. So, bring pet food in, including if you feed strays. I know a lot of people in town do that. Bring that in at night, the food, make sure the garbage is secured. If there any debris and overgrown foliage and some other crawl spaces. And we also have a resident that's looking into a program to encourage owls to nest. Which I'm a big birder, so if we get owls back, I'm gonna be really, really happy. But yeah, so natural predator. But anyway, just so you know, if you have heard about this problem or experiencing it, we actually are trying to address it.
Just so you know, I've never seen rats on First Street, I haven't seen.
First Street as well.
Yeah, I've never.
Is anyone reporting this to the Board of Health? I mean, I think that's
Yeah, I did.
important that
Yeah.
someone, so then Joe, you should also,
Yeah.
I've never seen them.
and Hector, can you follow up
Yes,
on
first
it?
I'm here, yes.
I just have one thing on the business. It's really to the storm drain thing. Freehold Township, I was talking to people last week because I know they were looking to get rid of a shop. We have a jet, but we don't have a vac, and they were used vac. I'm sure they have a lot more money than we do. Talking to him about doing a shared service agreement where we gotta take a look at it, but I got some ideas on a used vac for the storm drains that they have down there. Maybe we can work out an agreement where we pay it off over 5 years, like a lease purchase, and then we own it at the end, and we'll do it to an interval with them, but somebody's got to come down and take a look at it. But
We have the first part of the back, and we bought the second part, am I correct?
that's what-
So is this the second part that you're talking about?
Agenda's very cheap, the vac, you know,
Exactly,
good
that's
vac,
the
good vac is $500,000, so this is a used one.
But it might be in good shape.
Their truck is a lot older, but the frame that it's on is a lot older, but the back parts and some of the other stuff are in pretty good shape, and Keyport, you're not driving more than half an hour. It's different at Freehold Township where you have to drive a long distance, so it's something we can take a look at. So I'll talk to him. He's getting me some prices.
So Michelle,
See, most
keep
of our
that
storm
on
drains,
new
but-
business, just so that we know it's,
Most of our storm drains
Something that-
aren't deep
yeah.
like Freehold, so, you know, we can clean a lot of them by hand, but it's a lot easier if you have it, if you have the back.
Mayor, I have a couple of things, not in business, but I want to bring up. Hector, there was, about 3 months ago, we brought up, there was like 86 lights out in town. I think there's 106 out now, but, do we know Jersey Central been in?
I will get back with our rep, I haven't spoken with them about lights and.
Because there's a
Probably
lot
not.
out, and I'm starting to
So
see.
you tell them I'm gonna vote no for the next bill, you put a next bill on there, please let me know on the next bill, because I'm gonna stop paying for lights.
what did he say last time you spoke with him, when you were 86 out?
They actually started coming out that weekend, so I'm a little surprised to hear it. We had a good conversation. They were going to start working on it. Obviously, taking care of all of them in one shot wasn't gonna happen, but they were going to start taking care of it, and I believe that weekend they started taking care of them. So I will get back with
And then if you know where they are, let Hector know, so that.
No, I know, you know, see, and then the last thing is, the landscapers and homeowners, blowing the grass in the streets.
We have other ordinance for that.
I know, but look at the storm drains, see what's going on, that's what's in there. So, property, I don't know, property maintenance, code enforcement, I don't know how we're, but,
Can you
I
address that?
see it all get blown all around, and it's what happens with the storm drains, so if we could enforce this.
I guess my first question would have to be, is this something that we have to catch them in the act?
Well, I think you could see, because it's usually in front of their property.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but my question is, do we have to catch them in the act? I mean, is.
More, yeah, I mean, you can't like, you don't see it. Put a warning on the door.
I think the biggest problem is landscapers, so if our guys are out driving around, they're gonna see you guys during the day when they're blowing the grass.
It's constantly, you know, some pick it up, some.
Yeah, it's a combination of homeowners and landscapers.
But Hector, when you talk to Jersey Central, the telephone pole, and I'm not saying picking Green Road, it's been now for probably 6 months. The school's gonna be opening soon, and the same pile of dirt's there, it's hard for kids to walk to school.
Robbie, there's like 10 that's been there over a year.
Are you talking about the pole?
They put the new pole in, they leave the dirt, so I said, then, you know, I can pick it up a little at a time. It starts to, and we have heavy rains and it covers the sidewalk, and the school's gonna be opening soon, so it's time to get them cleaned up, the kids will walk to school. Since you're talking to the guy.
Make a call.
There's about 10 of them, just so you know. That, all right off my head, the poles that.
And if we're doing this, I have one other thing just to throw out there, I just want to pack, we're here till later, right? but I know we have this major problem with the new website, and I didn't even go into all of that, but what it does mean is that our videos have not been able to be posted, and we had a lot of old ones up, and we have nothing for this year. As a Band-Aid, can we move them all to YouTube so
Yeah,
that people can at least access them? That's what I'm thinking too. Okay.
Look at the problem with this contract, I mean, it's
Yes.
coming up, but
Yeah, I
we need to
agree.
get the contractor here one night to a meeting and just,
I mean, I believe this is.
and you letting them know, you gotta put
I mean, people have asked me, there's no tax maps on there, there's nothing on there.
It's
It's a huge problem.
it's been taxing, speaking with.
Have we paid them all the money on the contract?
This
They
is
built the contract.
previous meeting.
As a matter
They
of fact.
fulfilled the contract?
Yes, as a matter of fact, holding up payment only held up the website.
So they're contending that they've done it and it's sort of out.
It was supposed to be.
Because they didn't update, and we didn't update.
Okay.
That was the issue. Holding up payment, basically just held up the work, and during that time, as you know, we never stopped. So when we went live, that delta between when they stopped, when.
Okay, why don't you set up a meeting with them and the finance committee and you pretty much get them?
I don't think it was updated. I did a training with them back in January, early February, and I don't think it was touched from that point on. And it was made very clear in that meeting that it was supposed to be handled now.
Okay, we're gonna go into the borough administrator report. Hector, you're on.
Is he still here? Jeff? That bill is for an application that our first responders use called First Due.
Okay, and they're the only ones that have access to that?
Yes, it's primarily used for RFP.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, this is my report for the past month. Did you hand it out to you? Okay, great. First one is water and sewer line upgrades. I'm very happy to announce that the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank approved our grant application in the amount of $1.81 million to design and plan upgrades to our water and sanitary lines. This is including the lead replacement line program. Limiting bicycles on our waterfront. I'm working with legal to have an ordinance to restrict bicycles on the waterfront. I expect to have that ordinance ready by our next meeting. Stormwater flooding, I think we talked about it a little bit. I've been working with our borough engineers and DPW to address the continuous flooding issues that we have been having. Our DPW team is regularly cleaning and monitoring storm drains, especially the troubled ones. We're making sure that we monitor the weather forecast, and when we know that there's heavy rains coming, we make sure that we hit those troubled ones. Working with Matt and Trevor, I believe we'll have a report next month.
Yes.
To kind of update where we have been and recommendations moving forward. We've also worked with state and and HAZA to start coordinating some efforts as some of these things over.
You want the condition of catch basins? Is it the first time you're doing it?
This is the first time I'm doing it as a comprehensive.
This is the first time as a comprehensive that we're doing it?
Yes.
The Borough Hall project, the construction documents are just about complete. The architect has been in contact with the contractor from the Bergen County Co-op that he's going to be recommending. Fireman's Park, the contractor, Seacoast, is scheduled to begin demolition work within the next 2 weeks. The northern portion of the lot is going to close as soon as they mobilize. And then the southern portion of the lot will be closed sometime around Labor Day. We'll have this all up on the website, understanding that parking lot is heavily used. So we'll have that information up on the parking lot so people understand, the changes in you know, like, get ready for it, because it's gonna be a year project.
We're right now through about Memorial Day, 2027, so, yeah. And Hector, governing body, or anybody has questions, I did bring some maps with me today, if anybody wants to take a look at
Yeah, I
them.
think you're gonna do.
You're gonna be done before Memorial Day, you're gonna be done, tell Congress gotta be done before Memorial Day.
Matt's gonna do a presentation after.
All right, pavilion project, I spoke about. Parking, again, as Aaron talked about, we, working with, legal to figure out some, parking issues in the schools. Also for the September 1st meeting, we will have, the, introduction of ordinance for, stop signs in certain areas, reducing the requirement from 50 feet down to 25 feet. We're also looking to restripe the municipal lot at Beach Park and the playground. I think we spoke about that last time, but also we're looking to do restriping at the municipal lot between Broad and Main. Give that some love.
Hector, just real quick. Don't we have some money in for paving, we have some money in for paving this project, right?
For the Fire and Sport project? Yes.
Some extra money, we don't know what it's gonna be yet, right?
We do have contingency built in for paving. We did include bid alternates, but we didn't have enough budget to include the bid alternates that would include full-scale paving of any parking lots at the waterfront side of Fire and Sport.
No.
No.
Okay, they're gonna change it.
Which lot, I'm sorry, which lot are you talking about, Councilman?
Well, actually, one that they both lost, we didn't get enough money, but at least a big parking lot, but we can't do the big parking lot. So I'm saying before you strike the boat ramp, maybe we do the boat ramp at least, to get that done. Because they both need to be done. And unless we built it in 1 year and we spent 3 hurricanes, you see it. And the road needs to be paved. That's right, we got extra money for concrete work, right? Fixing the curb.
The road has been submitted as part of this year's DOT grant.
Safe Routes to School grant, we completed our interviews with the state-approved design consultants for this grant. We'll be able to make a recommendation at the next meeting.
Yes.
There's 4 state-approved design consultants. So I believe we'll, like I said, we'll shoot out a recommendation to you at the next meeting. Also, I think I talked about this my last meeting, last time I gave a report. The street excavation and restoration ordinance, should have that ready for you for September 1st. Health insurance, we are currently out to the market soliciting proposals for health insurance outside the state health benefits program. Municipal court, we've given Middletown Township formal notice, and we will expect to make the move for September 1st. And finally, the Harbor Commission, we're working on finding a company to fix and or replace some pilings in the harbor that are in need of attention.
And no estimates came in on the?
I've not.
Not yet,
I don't
okay.
understand.
And does that include the pier where the Princess docks?
That's correct.
So my question there is they put in a larger boat without permission, and I question whether or not some of that piling damage is because of the boat that they put in. If we can just see if there's any relation there.
They're gonna be doing it from the land side, so they're not gonna be doing that. And we actually did, Hector, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, we met with one of the contractors who had previously given us a quote for the dock and piling work, and they're gonna be updating their number to include some of the other areas on the highway.
Thank you. That's my report, folks.
What happened at the Borough Hall? Didn't we give that same architect, wasn't he awarded a contract for $50,000 to do a study on the post office and
Yeah, we never saw any deliverables.
Did we get anything for our 50 grand?
I don't, so I went back and did, I went back and shared with you,
Well, it didn't say about the work though. It just listed 3 things
Yep.
that.
Shouldn't we have a nice little model or something?
Yeah, we were supposed to get a nice 3D render.
I will,
Hector, it says San Marino, whatever
he could give us the money back.
That would be assuming, okay.
Hey, Joe, you got some time next week, I know we structured. I
Well,
don't have that time to really sit down and break it down, but I think.
We don't want to Lego production either, you know, with 50
Give me a
grand.
call, we'll get together with Hector and we'll come.
Actually, thank you for the report. Matt, do you wanna go into your presentation?
Sure. Yeah.
How many units are you gonna build?
How about 800?
That's about right.
That's about right. So, as Hector mentioned, and I think it was at last meeting in June, we awarded the contract to Seacoast Construction for the Fireman's Park project. So up on the screen here, I've got just a Google Earth shot of what it currently looks like today. We all know it's in rough shape. We know it floods pretty much every full moon high tide that we get around the bend at Ring Road, American Legion Drive, and that flooding extends into the parking lot. So with this project, that was one of the main engineering issues that we wanted to improve and mitigate flooding. Additionally, from a public space and recreation standpoint, I think there's a lot of room for improvement down here, which is why we were proposing to extend the concrete promenade that we currently have for the balance of the park across the 400 feet of frontage that we have at Fireman's Park, and meet up with the recently improved bulkhead on the old Econ property. I'll flip over to a rendering of what the finished project would look like. So as you can see, we're still maintaining vast majority of the existing paved parking lot for Fireman's Park. We know that's important for the Fireman's Fair and other events that go on down there. As you can see here, we've extended the concrete promenade along the frontage of Fireman's Park. Another improvement that we've made has been adding a landscaped area between the promenade and the parking lot. Happy to report that we were able to do this without losing any parking in the parking lot. We actually picked up an extra parking space just because we were able to lay it out a little bit more efficiently. We did double the amount of handicap parking spaces in the parking lot as well.
Where did you put them?
We've got 3 parking spaces up here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but on the bank of spaces that are right up against the promenade, and then we've got 2 spaces near this little courtyard area, sitting area on West Front Street, and then we have another single ADA space in the bottom left-hand corner of the parking lot. So we tried to distribute those around the parking lot to the extent that we could. Happy to report now this does meet ADA requirements for the number of parking spaces that we need to provide for
Matt, how
accessibility.
high is it being lifted so everybody knows?
That's a great point. So, as everybody knows, the existing boardwalk that's down there is only about a foot above the high tide line. And this area of Ring Road, like I mentioned before, pretty much every full moon high tide that we get, it floods. We're gonna be raising this corner of American Legion Drive up about 3.5 feet. Likewise, this corner of the parking lot and the majority of the frontage of the parking spaces that back up to the boardwalk are gonna be raised up to about 3.5 feet. So that was the number that we were shooting for, because with that elevation, we'll be matching the elevation of the existing promenade and the existing bulkhead for the balance of Waterfront Park. So most of that height and elevation is gonna be happening closer to the bulkhead, and from there, we're gonna be sloping that back down to meet the curb line at West Front Street.
Just to set expectations, is that eliminating the flooding?
Not even close, so.
Just wanted that out there.
Yeah, and that's an important point to make, and that's something that we try to bring up every time we talk about Fireman's Park. I think the FEMA 100-year flood elevation down here is like elevation 17. The elevation of the existing promenade, that Waterfront Park is elevation 8. So that's why we're looking to bring it up to elevation 8.
So, you know, when we did the bulkhead at the time, the Army Corps came in and said they would do it for free, and they wanted to build it. Their thing is to protect from floods. They wanted it to be at elevation 18. If we built it at elevation 18, you'd never see the water. So when there's a hurricane, you gotta get out of there.
Yeah. So to put that into context, the elevation that we're raising to elevation 8, that corresponds to roughly the 10-year storm, whereas like the full FEMA design elevation is for the 100-year storm. So really the purpose of this project is to mitigate that nuisance flooding that we see every couple of weeks when we get a full moon tide, when the wind's blowing in from the north, to make the parking lot more accessible for events and for the public.
I have a question on raising the road, so 3 feet, so from the top, from West Front Street to the corner That's gonna be 3 feet?
Yeah, so we're gonna be meeting existing elevation down at West Front Street next to Mike's Subs, and from there, we're actually gonna be diving down a little bit because we can't just raise everything up. We need to establish some low points to collect the water. But even the low points that we're creating are gonna be 1.5 feet, or
So when you
basically
get
a
around
foot
the
higher
bend-
than the
Around the bend, is
low.
the road going back down again, or is that the same elevation that the road is down there? I'm trying to remember
So
what
we're gonna
elevation
be,
the road
like,
is.
at the bend right here, this comes up 3.5 feet. And from
On the
there,
other- on the other side of the bend, is it gonna go back down, or is that?
and then it comes back down to meet the existing elevation of the pier.
Then how far going back down is that?
I don't have the exact numbers, I think it's probably within a foot.
Yeah, it's not.
It never really floods over here by the pier, so.
It's not going back down 3 feet, that's all.
No.
So Matt, it's gonna have the same railing and everything
Yep.
around as well?
We're
So what are you
continuing.
gonna do with the, chipped railing that we have that's gonna look even more hideous than it does now?
That's an ongoing challenge with powder coated railing that is noticed in any waterfront application.
So we're not doing powder coating railing on this
On the new
section?
part?
So we've got, the way we currently have it spec'd out is to match the existing railing that's down there, which is powder coated. We can look into other options. What we've seen work pretty well is just the standard anodized aluminum, so it's basically just looks like
I
stainless
think
steel.
it
almost.
should be, because if we're gonna have the same issue that we have with chipping, I mean, it might not chip in the first 5 years, but after that,
Yeah, that's gonna rest.
it's a mess.
You have all the money in the open space, so what I think we need to do is get on a plan where we replace section, rather than wait till it all goes bad.
I said section
Replace
number.
two or three sections each year, maybe a light each year, 2 or 3 sections of fence, so it just kind of rotates through, because you're gonna have problems. I don't care what kind of railing you put down there. You just put plain, it's gonna get dark, it's gonna get dirty.
So
you're
Matt,
not
the
gonna like it.
pylons that are there, they're gonna be gone?
The ones that go
That are
out front.
currently there with that boardwalk that's there?
So those are gonna stay, but those are gonna be buried. We're gonna be building the new bulkhead directly in front of those pilings and then filling it behind it and raising those up. So we want to keep as many of those there as possible because they do still provide some structural benefit to the existing bulkhead. So the intent is.
It's the same way the rest of it.
Yep.
Now, you're gonna have water and everything out that way, if the clean stuff, like if we need water?
Yeah, so there is an existing fire hydrant in the, if you're looking at this in the top left corner of the parking lot, so we're gonna keep that, so it's still gonna be available out there, and then all the landscaping is gonna be irrigated. So if there
Okay,
is,
like, there's gonna be a water line out there,
yes, yeah, if we need to provide another, like a little yard hydrant or something out there, plug a garden hose into, we can always add that.
Rid of the porta johns.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that, we included the porta johns here only because they
No, I
were
know.
there, and, that's a conversation we wanna have with the borough. We don't need to make the decision now, but we can probably find a better home for those, versus having them front and center in the parking lot. So,
And I think behind where it was designed to go was, we liked it was behind the laundromat, that's where there's a pad over
The
there.
pad's there.
And really the pad was for eventually put a trailer, basket trailers, and you plug this electric over there and water, and
We just gotta.
you plug them in and then put them away in the
something
winter
like
time.
that. The harbor commission's been.
Yeah, there's something real down there, this,
Yeah,
this
because-
stuff.
it's,
And Matt, let me ask you something, you have the memorial is still gonna stay there, you're just going, how are you?
the memorial stays, we don't have to raise it because we're meeting the existing.
So you're
elevations.
leaving it existing as it is right now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, believe it or not, one of the higher parts of the parking lot, so, that can stay as it is. Right, and you'll see on here, we are showing some new parking spaces within the post office parking lot. Those are gonna remain for use by the post office, but just based on the fact of how much we're raising American Legion Drive, we have to cut into the post office property a little bit just to bring that grade up in equal amount, to feather that in. We're not going any farther into this parking lot than we need to, but I just want to point that out, that's not gonna be publicly available parking, that will remain just for the post office. So if anybody has any other-
And is there lighting around there? I don't see any.
Yes, yeah, it's a little difficult to see on here, but these little symbols here, so we do have lighting, it's gonna be
What
spaced.
type of lighting, is it the same that we have in the other part?
Same style of light, it's gonna be an LED fixture, it's gonna be the same standard spacing that we have up and down the waterfront, and those are gonna extend, we've got a couple extending along American Legion Drive as well, just to continue that and provide lighting.
And there's a proper walkway that's gonna be in now between us and the fishery property?
Yep, you can see over here, the sidewalk is gonna extend from West Front Street, meet the promenade, we've got a sidewalk that runs along the head-on parking spaces, at the north end of the lot, and all that connects, and we'll have a sidewalk that follows American Legion Drive down the west front of the lot, so fully encircled for pedestrian access. The existing.
So, one question, with the fishery, their parking lot is going to butt up to ours, or theirs lower, is ours higher?
So ours is gonna be higher. As you get closer to West Front Street, they're more or less the same elevation. The further that we start moving to the north towards the water, then you're gonna notice the difference in elevation. So there's gonna be about a 3-foot difference in elevation between the two. The closer that we get to the bulkhead, you will see a small retaining wall, 2 or 3 feet tall, at the max, just to make up that difference.
And since water always finds a way, even though we're raising it there, do you think it's gonna flood on that side now?
So none of the runoff from the new Fireman's Park lot is gonna be contributed to the fishery lot. They do have an existing catch basin there, that does flood. Until they do something about that to raise it, they're gonna continue to have that issue, but none of what we're doing here is gonna, contribute to any flooding on their property. So, as Hector had mentioned, the contractor plans on mobilizing next week. We're looking at potentially Tuesday or Wednesday. They're gonna get back to us with an exact date, so we can schedule a,
And you've contacted all the businesses already?
yes,
in that
yes,
area?
thank you for reminding me. I met with, Mike Subs twice, the post office twice, and I met with Gerber Salon today to discuss impacts to their parking, and we're gonna work with the chief and with Hector to come up with some temporary solutions while the parking lot's down for the count.
It's got, the approval for the houses on the, behind Apollo there, Stephen could use this property for a while for that before. Does anybody know who that is anymore?
Yeah, I'm gonna meet with him next week or something else, so we can have that conversation if that's an option. I believe the borough also owns a small piece of property where that old hot dog stand used to be. We're talking about even just temporarily allowing parking on the west side of Deer Street too, as long as we're far enough away from the intersections that doesn't cause any safety hazards. So as Hector mentioned, contractor plans on mobilizing next week. First phase of work is gonna be limited just to the demolition of the old boardwalk, installation of the new sheet pile bulkhead. So for the first month to 2 months that they're working on that, we're gonna ask them to keep that as contained as possible, to leave about a third of the parking lot still available. So this gets you about 50 parking spaces more or less that will be available. There might be some times where they need to close American Legion Drive for a few days at a time during the first phase of work, just so they can get their equipment in, the demolition and bulkhead work. Just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. But we anticipate that the work zone is going to look more or less like this until sometime in September, where they need to expand some of their site work so that they can stay on schedule. So this is what phase 2 would look like. Kind of zoomed out just so we could see how we're going to control traffic. But zooming into this would include fencing off the entire parking lot, fencing off a portion of American Legion Drive to allow them to do the drainage work that they need to do, the elevation work. Includes fencing off a portion of the post office parking lot. Met with them, discussed opening a temporary gate onto American Legion Drive over near the fishing pier so that they still have access throughout construction. And again, we're gonna be working with the business owners and the post office pretty closely so that we can coordinate this to minimize impacts to them. You know, recognize they're a 6-day-a-week operation, and we don't wanna get in the way of the mail. Throughout construction, the entire site's gonna be surrounded by temporary chain link fence, just so we can keep the site secure, keep the public safe. And for any portion of the project where we're gonna be closing American Legion Drive, we are gonna have signs, we're gonna have some advanced warning set up so that people coming down Broad Street know that, hey, road's closed, no through traffic, but we still will allow this for any visitors, any residents that need to access their properties through American Legion Drive. And this is more or less what we anticipate the project's gonna look like through spring of 2027.
So Matt, just to back up a little bit, the along Front Street there, where all the firemen's park is and all that landscaping and all of that, the grade is just gonna come to that, we're not disturbing any of that, right?
Correct, we're gonna replace the curb that's out there, just, it's in pretty bad shape, but we're gonna match that existing
But all that
elevation.
landscaping and everything is fine?
Yep, that will stay.
Okay. You know I love to do that. We meet each other there.
We gotta do
Your
something
local
without
leaders.
told no more.
Meet each other.
That's it. Does anybody have any
Thank you,
questions?
thank you for the presentation.
Are we the landlord yet of the post office?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
As of when? August first. Thank you.
I have one quick thing, it was asked at the last, not of you, Matt.
Okay.
You're done, right, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. It was asked at the last meeting about the quorum for the KBBC, whether they actually had one set a couple of months ago, discussed the ground before. And since the bylaws call for the entire board, the balance, half of the entire board, it seems that they didn't have a quorum. I don't know what the ramifications of that are, but those meetings should have been tabled.
I have not spoken to it, we had a conversation today, but I'm gonna reach out to their attorney tomorrow and just see where it is. We had reached a point there where the parties were trying to work it out absent the attorneys, but I'm happy to discuss this with you in more detail.
And I would like to have them know, nobody told me.
We
I know, but you guys had a conversation, I would like to know from my attorney.
Yeah, just so you know, the conversation was about 2 minutes before the council meeting.
Yeah, when you do take a look at it, 'cause I haven't looked at the ordinance, but it's, for some reason, it was represented that there's not a fixed members of that board, so if you have to take a look at it, I'm not sure how you count it. It's, does the ordinance actually still say up to a certain?
I mean, the question was asked, we could have asked it to determine. And we have been, I know, the council president has been asking.
So the ordinance says up to.
But nobody let me know.
You looked at it or no?
So,
As usual.
there's the ordinance is one thing, it's whether or not their bylaws also has something set.
Yeah,
So
that's
the
what-
bylaws may have set a larger board than what our ordinance did, and then they have set different parameters as to what constitutes a quorum for their bylaws. So to your point, on the Roberts rules, they may have been one, but if they're not under the bylaws, and that's still.
I just was wondering why the ordinance, anybody know why the ordinance is, you guys, but this new ordinance for this KBBC has a flexible
And I
number of
have
board
been,
members?
people have been asking me that question, so I put it on the meeting, and
Okay, do we have a motion to open to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Christine?
Christina Greenberg, 144 Therese Avenue, Keyport. Can I just give Michelle a copy of what I'm going to talk about, so give it to everyone?
Give it to the chief, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As all of you know, my name is Christina Greenberg, and my family has proudly called Keyport home for the past 18 years. I never imagined I would be standing before you asking for something like this, but after living through the past 8 months, I had felt I had a responsibility to speak up, not just for my family, but for the families who may one day found themselves in the same position as ours. As you all know, on December 20th, 2025, we lost our home at 144 Therese Street in a devastating fire. It was a total loss and had to be completely demolished. After months of planning, permitting, and rebuilding, our new home is finally under construction. Recently, I learned that Keyport's 5-year residential tax abatement for new construction is no longer available. I understand that the ordinance was repealed in 2024, and I am not here tonight asking for an exception for my family or asking for the borough to disregard the current law. Instead, I am asking you to consider reinstating a limited residential tax abatement for owner-occupied primary residences rebuilding after a documented catastrophic loss. Keyport has endured its share of devastating events over the years, from Superstorm Sandy to catastrophic residential fires and other disasters that have displaced many of our families. In the 18 years I have lived here, I can think of several families who have experienced catastrophic losses. Every one of those tragedies was different, and some involved losses far greater than the destruction of a home. I would never compare those experiences. However, for the families left to rebuild their lives, the financial burden of rebuilding a home can be overwhelming. Even with insurance, rebuilding is incredibly expensive. The cost that insurance doesn't cover, the rising construction costs, temporary housing expenses, and countless unforeseen expenses that continue long after the fire is out. A temporary tax abatement won't erase those hardships, but it can provide meaningful financial relief during the years when families are working hard to rebuild their lives. I also believe such a program benefits Keyport as a whole. A property that has been destroyed often contributes significantly to less to the borough while it sits vacant or demolished. Encouraging homeowners to rebuild returns improved properties to tax rolls, strengthens neighborhoods, increases long-term property values, and helps keep families in the community they love. I understand the borough may have had valid reasons for ending a broad tax abatement for all new residential construction. If that was the concern, I respectfully ask you to reconsider a much narrower ordinance that applies only to owner-occupied primary residences that are being rebuilt after a catastrophic loss, whether from a fire, a natural disaster such as Superstorm Sandy, or any other qualifying event. This request is not for just my family, it is for the next Keyport family that experiences the unimaginable. None of us expects to lose our home, none of us expects to have our lives changed in an instant. But when it happens, I hope the community will have a policy in place that helps families recover, rebuild, and remain in a town that so many of us love dearly. Over the past 18 years, my family has invested our lives in this community. We have chosen to rebuild in Keyport because this is our home, and we believe in this town and its future. My family is fortunate to have the opportunity to rebuild. Not every family can, but my hope is that if another Keyport family ever faces a catastrophic loss, they will know their community is standing behind them, not only with compassion, but with policies that make rebuilding a little bit easier. Thank you for your time, your service to our community, and for considering this proposal.
Thank you.
Greenberg, I just had a quick question. Were you proposing so that there be no tax on the new improvements?
No.
Or that just, let me just ask a question, are you talking about that the assessment should be what it was before the new house, what it was prior?
So speaking with another family that had lost their home several years ago, that applied for the tax abatement and received it, their property taxes remained at what they were at a slight increase gradually over the 5 years.
So
And
that's
then after 5 years, it went to its current value, just to help ease, not zero.
Okay,
at all.
but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was clear, but just on families that are planning to stay in town.
Thank you. Jen.
Jennifer Henning, 102 Main Street. I just want to clarify about the recordings will be up on YouTube. How do we access them?
Michelle's going to put them on YouTube with the help of.
So we'll access them from the
There'll
website?
From the Borough website. Probably be a link, I would think.
You can share it once it's available.
Okay.
But also if there's a link on our site.
Yeah.
you can share.
What I really want to address is the rat issue. I live in that neighborhood. This is an ongoing issue that started last winter with the initial gutting of a house. And, you know, without going into the details, people started seeing rats in the neighborhood, identified it. I didn't see them. My husband did, took down the bird feeders, and we didn't see any more rats until, and other people did down on Kearney Street. Mostly they went down, I believe the situation started in a house on Main Street. And so did they. But a couple weeks ago, I put up the bird feeders again, because I hadn't seen any infestation in months. And within hours, I saw rats. So, and I spoke to other neighbors. Some have seen it, some haven't. I think they were coming from my property from someplace else. I think they have spread out. Obviously, it's been 6 months since winter. So they're breeding, they're around. I have been twice to the health department. I believe other neighbors have to, I'm not sure. So, but I have done some research about rat mitigation. I think it would be helpful if the town, because it you know, I've lived here over 40 years and never saw a rat until this year. So if we get a problem and it grows, it's going to grow for everybody. So I think education is first, and maybe working with the Environmental Commission, because it is an Environmental Commission issue. It's part of the ecosystem. And the health department, maybe some education, and there are some programs. I haven't heard back on the neighbor who has looked into raptors. You
How
know,
big are they? Bigger than that.
so
How big? Have you seen it? Is that
they're big. Oh, no, big as a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen smaller ones, but
Yeah, I guess my question is, you said it started with a demolition of a house?
not a demo. There, you know, I don't want to really talk about neighbors because these were very, you know, but somebody was ill. I believe it was a hoarding situation, but I don't want to, you know, I don't want to go too much into it. That's what.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so, but, that situation has been taken care of. That is no longer you know, threat to the neighborhood in terms of sanitation and so on, okay? That's completely cleaned up, but now we have an infestation that has spread, you know, around, so.
I'm willing to take it to the environmental commission, I guess we could probably.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it to the next meeting.
Yeah,
Just-
I mean, we usually try to send things out in mailers, which would like the bills.
But I
and
think
like
in
quarterly,
education,
but
just because
yeah.
people have to know, people are feeding raccoons in this town, which is nuts.
I'll see that, you know, I'll
Right.
reach out.
And there are people that feed feral cats, but most of them do take the food in. But there are things that people need to be educated about in terms of.
Our next meeting's the last, no.
And, you know, it's not that the neighbors, like the neighbors, where I think it was coming from, those neighbors keep a very, you know, next door, it's a very clean yard. It's not that neighbors are doing anything to,
Maybe we're doing too good a job chasing feral cats out of town.
and there aren't a lot of feral cats in that neighborhood. There are feral cats around town, but not in this neighborhood. We only have Dieter's cat now.
Thanks, Jen. Oh, Nicole, sorry. I
Oh,
think.
go ahead.
No, that's okay, that's fine. Nicole Hen, 8 Kearney Street. I just want to talk a little bit about the redevelopment plan for Cass Street that we heard for the presentation. I heard them mention the 2017 master plan. I know some residents in this room actually worked on it at length and nauseam. And I feel like it was just used as like a placeholder, like we looked at the master plan. I think one glaring thing missing is we have not reinstated the Historical Preservation Commission, which was part of that. And we also don't have a design standard in place for residential, commercial, anything. So I think it would save everyone's time if we actually adopted an ordinance that gives us a design standard, so developers don't come in with things like that we know don't fit the aesthetic of our town. Not to mention something we don't want in our town. So that would certainly ease some of the time that we spend watching these presentations, legal fees, everything else that goes into it. So I think that's something really important. So has there been any movement to reinstate the Historical Preservation Commission?
Yeah, but we could.
Okay, okay.
Brought up a few times.
Okay, great. The second part is, have we had any updates about the annual reassessments, county reassessments?
Everybody's been asking.
I'll check it.
Yeah, like every resident has been asking me the same question.
Just I know, were we opting out? Were we trying to, I know some other municipalities are involved in some
Didn't we
litigation?
just read this, a group getting together to study, a couple of assemblymen, been compiled, was that done yet? I think there were some people working on it.
Okay, so there's no updates? No. Okay. Is there any, but there has been discussion between municipality and county level?
I haven't had a discussion, but other towns have, so we can piggyback off. I'm sure everybody's asking.
Honestly, I didn't know you could opt out, so I'm just gonna start to take a look at it. I haven't looked at it before, because I thought it was mandatory for everybody.
When I looked at it before, like, it's a lawsuit. It's
Yes,
a lawsuit.
right, exactly.
It costs money, but if we could get in with other municipalities.
Then we can do it as a.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Al?
Al Letlock, 60 Walnut Street. I heard a rumor that the Brownsfield Commission was going to be reinstated. I was just trying to find out the status of that.
It has been, Alan, that's why, look, we were kind of waiting for some of these new reports to come out, to maybe have a meeting, but on the 13th, that's why I just asked the mayor, we're gonna ask all the members of the BDA committee to make sure they come if they want to come and attend. That'll be the first meeting that we talk about, scheduling other meetings after that.
The 13th of this
He is,
month?
he's on the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on the
I don't
committee.
think anybody's been.
I just haven't heard it about it. I was trying to
That's what I'm
find
saying,
out.
Hector, I think as part of this, before the 13th meeting, we should probably notify everybody.
Yeah, that would be a good thing. The other thing is I wanted to thank everybody on the town council for approving the, yacht club member as a member of the harbor commission. We'll be able to manage the harbor much better with that, so thank you very much.
Thank you,
Just a question, if you do look at it, so can you still get the,
Me?
can you still get the studies?
Yeah, look who's here.
No, okay.
Yeah, they're, that's there.
Because otherwise they're gonna make copies and say, send me.
Yeah, and there's some issue with being able to upload the video.
Ed Reeves, 44 Perry Street, yes, this chief firm must know my name well by now. I call the police a million times a week for the last 4 years. Before that, I never bothered. That was ridiculous. It's, this man right here who's sitting here, he's got no conscience whatsoever. He was laughing when Vince was trying to make a point. He's sitting there laughing. I mean, this is ridiculous. I think he should just tell it to go away. This is just my opinion, but everything he does seems to turn to junk. It's just ridiculous. He's destroyed I'm looking right now at the foundation of my house because these trucks are shaking the hell out of me.
The corner of yours in Jackson is starting to dip down.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The street itself is gone.
Your street never used to flood up there.
That poor guy on the corner,
Are the trucks still going down there?
Yeah.
yeah, they can still go down there. It has
Are we enforcing the
Calls
ordinance?
police.
Go down where, sir?
Perry Street.
You're allowed to go down.
Yeah, they're allowed to from,
Why are they
But they're
not
still
allowed
coming
to?
from the other area.
yeah. They're allowed to from 7 in the morning to
No, we
6
passed an
at
ordinance
night.
that said they can't go down there at all anymore.
Well,
You can't come off of,
You're
what's the street?
Your own street.
You're on the wrong street.
You're-
Perry Street is where the dump is, that's how they get to it.
Trace, we're talking about.
Now, what's the road coming off the highway?
Cass.
Cass Street. We passed an ordinance that they can't pass Cass Street onto Jackson Street.
They cast the
They're
Jackson.
going from Cass left onto Perry.
Correct. They're still going on.
Which is where Tracy.
If you can't go past Perry to Beers, that is correct.
Well, we just passed an ordinance, the new ordinance that passed, they can't pass Cass Street, they can't turn on, right onto Jackson Street anymore.
They don't put it right up there.
If you're coming in Cass, you could go straight onto Jack. If you go straight across that intersection, you're on Jackson. But where they are, you're going Cass right onto Perry.
Yeah, you make the right.
Are you on the other side?
No,
he's
he's
right
back
there.
We're on the entrance to the junkyard.
Right.
We have the factory right in front of us.
Now, unless I'm nuts, that ordinance says you cannot turn, when you come off the highway, that's Cass Street. When you make a right-hand turn, that's Jackson Street. You cannot make that right-hand turn
The
on
only
Jackson
direction
Street.
that is the only direction you get in, unless you amend an ordinance that they cannot do business, I don't know, that's the only street in there.
Yeah,
I know that, but there's particular trucks, those trucks can't go in there anymore. They have to pull into that parking lot, download their cars there, and move them one by one.
So the ordinance was updated, Jackson Street, trucks restricted entire length between Main Street and Broad Street, between Beer Street and Cass Street.
And they also, if you give them a ticket, they have to appear in court, so all these California truck drivers now are gonna have to start to come to court.
And the chief is going out there every time, am I correct? I just
I can
know
imagine
because
how many
you call
calls
me
it
and tell me
Hey.
at 4 o'clock in the morning, they're there.
We've made a fair amount of
Hector,
calls.
I think we gotta do some, I think you may need to update the signage and get the signage out there, but under the new ordinance, they cannot come off of Jackson's, they cannot come off of Cass Street onto Jackson Street.
Anytime I call the police, they're there in 5 minutes, so. And they ticket them every time. So,
one
tractor trailer.
Chief, you, no
Wait,
problems.
If you wanna come up to speak, you can speak after this.
Just makes it easier for the police, because they can't be down there anytime, not 6 to 7, not anytime, they can't be there at all.
The articulated, right?
Yes,
Is
the
what
articulated.
ordinance
Yeah,
is.
articulated vehicles.
articulated more than 20 feet.
I mean, the damage is already done. I mean, it's, the whole block it's caving in. And this guy doesn't care. He's only out to make $1 million. I mean, he tripled the rent on some of his people, so they had to get out. Why? Because he wants to build Fantasyland. It's ridiculous.
Even if he built that, it's many years down the road, so we're not taking the truck traffic for that many years, no matter what.
Besides, yeah, like you just said before to him, what about the construction that's gonna go across there now? I mean, besides that, you don't know what's underneath that building. That building was built, that building is all new, where I am. Mr. Swift just took Acco tile and buried it, and then poured cement on top of it. So you're talking about heavy metals, asbestos, you don't know what's underneath that building. So he's gonna open up a can of worms. I'm stating the obvious, he's ridiculous. And I hope that something can be done about it, because no matter what, he's a liar, he's a cheat, and there's just no pleasing him.
Thank you, Ann. Anybody else? Jack?
Jack Straub, 235 Main Street. The gentleman that's recording, is he recording for the borough or private citizen?
Me, I'm press.
Since members of the public need to announce themselves, maybe if people are gonna record, we could be told who that is and if it'll be on YouTube or where we can see whatever the recording is.
So the requirement is for the record, like you were giving your name and address for the record and then making your comments, but there is no requirement that you announce yourself or identify yourself if you're merely here to record. That's simply his First Amendment right.
Okay, so the recording person doesn't have to.
No, it's his right to record, I'm sure. You have no problem identifying.
It's.
Okay, wait.
Sorry. No, he addressed me, I'm sorry.
No, there's not, but I'm saying that's a question that you can ask him directly. I'm sure, if he's here, he wants people to see what he's recording, so, but that's his right.
Unfortunately, there's no expectation of privacy in the public space.
You can restrict where he films from.
Yes, and there are restrictions. He can't go into areas, and this is for anybody. No one is allowed to record in areas where we would not genuinely allow the public. So as it pertains to this chamber, we don't allow people to approach. We don't allow people to come in front of everybody else. So earlier, we asked them to stay on the sign. That's why. But in a council chamber, it's a public.
Oh, I'm not asking for it to be restricted. I'm just saying if someone's filming, shouldn't we know who that is and where it's gonna be?
Unless he gets up to
The answer
speed.
is, okay. Second question, and please tell me, it's a KBBC issue. If you'd like me to address it at another time with the attorney, council member Kind had mentioned that Mr. Raynone had said that KBBC was in violation of a quorum. The KBBC bylaw says the majority of the entire board shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. The entire board is the seated members on the board. So if there are 6 seated members, the quorum is 4. There's no violation of a quorum if there are 6 seated members.
The entire board is 13 people.
I'm not going to respond to anything. I understand I have to read your bylaws.
And
more
he'll
specifically,
reach out
so
to.
Oh, so you have to read, I'm sorry, so you're saying you have to read the bylaws. He said you had already decided.
What we said, and the bylaws require a majority of your members, and the majority of your board. If your board is 13 individuals, then you need a majority of 13 individuals. If there are open seats, it doesn't reduce the size of the board, unless your bylaws specifically state otherwise.
I'm confused. The Robert's Rules, United States Congress, none of those include vacancies. So unless the bylaws said vacancies count as a seat, and the bylaws do not say that.
Yeah, like I said, I'm happy to, again, review the bylaws, but as an example for this council, the council is, has X number of representatives, there's 6 people here, so, if there's vacancy on the council and there's only 5 staff members, a majority of the voting body is still 6 people. So you would still need 4 votes if you needed a majority of the body to maintain, kind of why the council has to fill a seat, right?
Right, according to the regulation, right. But if,
That's the law.
I understand, if the bylaws use Robert's Rules of Order, unless specifically stated, and you can overwrite Robert's Rules of Order. So Robert's Rules of Order, vacancies don't count. If the bylaws had said, the board, you count vacancies, then that would be different, but that's not what it says. So according to what it says,
I'm happy to review. I think that the point that was trying to be made is that not enough members of the board are appearing at these meetings. So you have, what?
that wasn't the issue. It wasn't that there weren't enough members
How many
appearing.
vacancies do you have on your board right now?
8 and a 9th was just appointed tonight.
You have 8 vacancies?
No. 8 members, eight members, and a 9th was appointed tonight, out of 13. At the time the issue came up, there were 7 vacancies, there were 6 board members, for 6 seated board members, not including vacancies, the quorum was 4, and there, I believe, were 5 members that night.
I disagree.
Okay, well, can
He's
you
gonna erect it, he's gonna.
work
speak
out
to
with the,
that.
sure, okay. All right, thank you.
Frank Martin, 205 2nd Street. Good evening. I have 2 safety concerns. The driveway entrance from Broad Street into the municipal parking lot used to have a sidewalk. That sidewalk is no longer available for people. It's dangerous. If I have to well, my wife goes to the library lot, she has to park in that municipal parking lot. There's no sidewalk anymore. Cars coming around the corner, you can get knocked over. I've taken my children, or my grandchildren, excuse me, to the Broad Street Diner, tried to go down that avenue after parking in the municipal lot. You can't do it anymore. There's no sidewalk. It's been taken away by a restaurant. So I don't understand why there's no longer a safety issue, a safety way to walk across that parking lot, out of the parking lot to Broad Street. That has to be fixed. That's one thing I'd like to see, somebody take
Wait,
a.
this is between Old Glory and the Nest you're
Yes,
talking about?
there's no sidewalk there anymore. It's been taken away. I don't know if that's somebody's property, but it never used to be somebody's property. It used to be a sidewalk. So that should be addressed. The other thing is, there's people who ride around town in these carts, these electric carts. They have kids hanging out the back of them. There's no seat belts. I saw one woman with a child in the back of these, I don't know, they're like electric vehicles. They're like golf carts. I think you have those. Yeah. There's no safety measures on those. That's a safety issue that should be addressed by the police.
Well, they have to have a seatbelt. and
There's
they're
nothing there. You see people hanging off the back of them.
Chief, am I
That's
correct?
something that should be addressed by the
It has,
town.
everybody that has them has to have a seatbelt.
Okay, that's the only thing I would say. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's just like driving, it's just like a car. Mike?
Mike Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. On the Cass Street presentation, Cass Street, that's the location of our water plant, right?
Cass Street is where the DPW yard is also?
Right. Where the what is?
No.
Oh, no, that's, you're right, Francis, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Cash Street water plant, yes.
Yes. So, and we have a resolution, we have an ordinance that very clearly states setback from the area of the water plant. And you can't build a 8-story building on that site.
And so are we not enforcing that
I
regulation?
don't know how far the setback is.
It's significant.
How far
I can't say it off the top of my head.
Mike, this was only a presentation, we didn't say we're approving anything.
I understand that, but what really concerned me is the presentation didn't deal with any of the land use requirements for that site.
That's because, Mike, for that project to go, there'd have to be changes to the,
Yes.
there'd have to be a redevelopment plan that meets those requirements, or there would have to be an amendment to the ordinance. So there's a lot that would have to take place before that.
Yeah, and that's the issue I'm trying to raise, is that we didn't have the opportunity to bring those issues up while the presentations were being made.
There's a number of issues that we didn't.
Yeah, so,
We got-
this was our first
We got
presentation.
940 real
So-
quick ones.
We have a very rigorous document defining what can happen around the water plant location. And it's to protect us, protect all of us. Second is that, they talked about 900 more units of residential units. In addition, if you look at the Hudson Point, Mariners Village, Go Away, all items which are, quote, in the process of being developed, there's another 900 units. So we're looking at, in Meriden Cove, we're looking at bringing almost 2,000 more residents on to our water supply system. Have we evaluated whether we have the capacity to almost double the use of our water system? And what's the process to get that done? The board is the manager of the borough. This is a really important item to be managed. What's the capacity of our water system? Can we double its use? Because we're looking at bringing that many units of residents online.
No, Mike, that's why the connection fee at that time would be 10,000 per unit, because that's the only way we're gonna be generating.
I won't argue with you.
Not to mention the sewer would be ridiculous.
But
So it's not.
I have already funded my portion of the water plant. And so if we're gonna bring 2,000 more units online, we need to have a water plant 2 and make them build. And secondly, the Environmental Commission has been looking at the issue of the water supply from the freshwater aquifer. And it's not unlimited. Surrounding towns are voicing concerns about their water plant because they pull the same aquifer as we pull. Union Beach, right next to us. We're sucking water from the same aquifer they use. Same thing with Mattawan, etc. And so the Environmental Commission has been looking at this, and it's really a significant issue for the council to manage. What is the future of our water plant? What is its capacity? And this is something we just can't close our eyes on. Did I misunderstand? Are we gonna proceed with Fireman's Park redevelopment?
You mean redoing the park?
Yes. We're gonna spend 500,000, or 500,
We are redoing the park.
pardon?
We are redoing the park.
And how much are we gonna spend?
What's the total?
4.9 million.
4.9.
We
And
have grants for over 3.
Yeah,
Right.
3 million.
And that's the most important thing for the borough to spend its money on. We have all these homes that can't get water flow out of their neighborhood to the bay. And if you look at the Strategic Recovery Planning Report, it documents we're gonna continue to have flooding, and we're having it. And we're gonna spend 500 million? I mean, what would you say, 500,000? You're gonna spend 5 million, I'm sorry. You're gonna spend 5 million for dry parking spaces when we have neighborhoods that can't get out of the flooding. And if you look at the strategic recovery planning report, it outlines this issue. It identifies the neighborhoods. And these are fellow residents of Keyport. And we can't fix the problem that there's a drainage ditch along the Henry Hudson Trail to move the water from Manchester out to the bay. How can we spend 5 million for dry parking spaces when we can't protect our neighborhoods? Our neighborhoods, I think, is a really fundamentally bad decision. It's focused on the wrong thing. And you really need to look at the strategic recovery planning report. And I have copies tonight for you guys.
Thank you, Mike.
Colette?
Good evening again. Colette Kennedy, 421 Atlantic Street. Just because there's been some shuffling on council, a lot of shuffling this year, who is the current redevelopment council committee member? Who are? Councilman who?
And Marilla.
Okay. So, last month in July, did either of you notify in your committee report that tonight's presentation was going to happen?
No, I didn't know what happened. I would have reported it.
Okay. So, basically, you guys have met with the committee met, and then kudos to bringing it back to the full council. I suggest next time you do it as a community meeting instead, so that members have more time and notice than just seeing an agenda that's posted on a Sunday night for such a large topic, and giving them not much of the floor. I understand that that's the way to do it, so kudos for correcting that process finally about how the full dais gets to hear something as opposed to how it had been being done. But then the next step kind of got dropped. So I suggest next time you do it as a community meeting, not taking up 2 hours of a council meeting unexpectedly. So that's just my, especially during the fair when people could have been down at the fair. So, and also you talk about them not being a good neighbor. I personally think that since the public weren't able to speak at all to them, they should have at least waited to hear what we had to say. So I think that feedback should absolutely be presented back to them, that was a disgrace that landlord left. And with the professionals, I get it, they're on the clock, paying them per hour or whatever, but the attorney who had so much to say to you all and wanted to interrupt everything you all had to say, I think it should be relayed back to them that was a professional disgrace, what they just did to Keyport. So that's my 2 cents on that. I know he doesn't, but I think it should still be relayed. So the other thing is, I really strongly suggest that the previous administration did away and took away the ordinance for the technical review committee. I think you should really put that back in place because developers like that would have to have paid $1,000 to meet with professionals within the borough to even vet any of the questions that you guys wouldn't have been faced with finding this stuff out last minute or the public. So I think when I spoke about it when you guys were removing it a year and a half ago, I strongly suggest you put that back. I think they also didn't address anything tonight about all the major flooding that just happened in that entire area, the last 3 storms that never happened before. So they want to go put this development plan in there. That I understand they would have to meet flood zone stuff and, flood prevention, but there's no way that type of plan is going to do that. Okay, back to Fireman's Park. I'm hoping you all realize the fair uses a water line right now that's on the adjoining properties between where Ye Cottage Inn is. That fair wouldn't run if that water line isn't there. So I hope you're aware of that. Okay. I sent an email after one of the storms offering if you needed a place to store cones that you could use my property. I didn't hear back from anyone. I did hear from the chief asking what had happened, and I relayed all of that to him, where there was a huge breakdown in emergency response over in that side of town. And I asked what I should do with the lone remaining cone. It still sits there. So DPW drives by it about 5 times a day and they stop and they laugh at it. So should I take it in? Do you guys want it back? It's a silly cone. What are we doing? But it's just, I mean, it's ridiculous. Or do you want me to keep it for next time when we have to close the road ourselves because no one else came to? The water, we keep talking about the water treatment plant and facilities for infrastructure. Back in 2023, we were supposed to be going back out for the review of the water tower to be cleaned and repainted. Did that get done?
No, it didn't. It was directed to last year.
It was directed by the state, and if it hasn't gotten done, we are now 3 years past, and that is a potential major health hazard. So we keep talking about water treatment plants, but what about the water tower? Also, Mayor, you brought up that the DEP was referencing that they're gonna start doing sample sites at 76 Broad Street. That project is already under a rehabilitation program.
They're doing it in that area.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
so
are they aware that there's already a company working on rehabbing that?
Yes.
Okay. Resident brought up about the master plan, well, a couple residents did. Are you aware, as a member of the planning board, that next year we're already due for a 10-year rewrite? Are they talking about going out to RFPs for that?
It should be brought up, and Councilman Burton.
I promise one last thing. You're talking about trucks on Perry. Everyone keeps talking about over by Cash Street. I was picking something up from a friend the other day, and 3 tractor trailers came down Perry off Maple into the DPW area, like by the Auto Legacy or whatever it's called. I'm not saying that's where they went. Like, I don't know where they were delivering to, but they're coming off Maple up back Perry too. So if they're not, and there's a sign there that says no truck. So just so you know that's going on.
Good old Indigo.
So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Christina Greenberg, 144 Therese. Just in regards to the rat issue, I'm not sure if anybody is aware, but 127 Main burned almost exactly a year before us. That property is still sitting vacant. I know after our fire, they told us because our kitchen burned so badly, just leave everything, do not touch everything, because just the way it got sprayed, the way things burned, they didn't want us to open anything with chemicals. But if that was just boarded up and left that way, if there was a rat problem in that neighborhood, that house should probably look at.
115 Main Street.
127, I believe.
115 was the fire.
115, okay.
Yes, and that's all ready, permits ready to be.
Oh, okay. But rats go where, like, there's vacancy, so. I know rodent inspection has to be done too.
Thank you.
Robert J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. According to my watch, it is 26 minutes after 10 at night, 10:26 p.m. Tonight, the fireman's fair is still going on, at least until 11 o'clock. And to put my 2 cents in, I think we should have rescheduled this council meeting for next Tuesday in light of the fireman's fair, but that's my opinion. Okay, as far as Cash Street goes, I personally don't think there should have been a presentation tonight. There should have been a community council meeting on it and stuff. That way the residents of Keyport could ask more about this presentation and stuff like that, so to get more of an input. And there's my opinion on that one. I talked about this before, I'll talk about it again. It's about We Care Adult Daycare. I go there twice. I help them out, they help me out. They're located on Highway 35, Union Square Shopping Center in Red Bank, New Jersey. They have a Facebook page. Their staff there is second to none. They have an excellent staff, and they deal with cases of dementia and Alzheimer's, and I see it every time I go there. And like I said, their staff is second to none, and I highly recommend them to a caregiver of the loved one who wants to send their loved one there. Last but not least, and I'll finally shut up, I'm a member of the American Legion Raritan Post 23 in Keyport, New Jersey. We meet first Thursday of every month at 7:30 p.m., 1930 hours military time. And any honorably discharged veteran is welcome to join us. Again, that's the first Thursday of every month, and thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm John Mallon, 89 Curry Street, Keyport, live directly across the street from the factory building on Cass Street. What is the borough's and 3 Cass Street's legal agreement seem to be mentioned about redevelopment? You guys seem to say you're here because of litigation, but you got to this point with them. Is there any kind of legal?
There's a settlement agreement for a litigation, without getting too much into the litigation, part of that settlement agreement was that the owners of the property agreed to present a plan to redevelop the property to move it away from its existing use into a new use. So this was merely their first presentation, their first thoughts as to what that redevelopment would look like.
Agreement that you have to allow them to?
No. So the redevelopment process is the redevelopment process. So effectively, the resolution to the litigation was that the current use of the property just needs to be revamped into something that is more acceptable to the community area, and that they agreed to attempt to redevelop it.
Did bring up to them is that, there's 4 houses on Perry Street, so there's only like their plan or any new plan. They show 2 accesses going into that development. One is Perry Street, one is a new street they're providing. You're talking 1,500 cars going in and out of 2 streets. There's 4 homes on Perry Street that those 1,500 cars will be passing every day. I personally have 5 cars, so there are 1.5 cars per household. I don't think it's gonna fill up pretty damn fast. And also I brought up the fact that, we just put solar panels on our house, and if they put a 6-story building directly across the street from my house, it's gonna be blocking the sun on my solar panels. Just things to think about when they come up with new development plans. And also, I want to ask about the Fireman's Park, the new waterfront, the extended new railing where you're bringing the deck up higher. What's the use going to be in that area where that's normally fishing and crabbing for most people? A lot of people are coming to Keyport now.
I don't know if that's been decided yet. I think that's
it
something
has
that.
yet. We haven't discussed that yet.
It would be nice to see some of the old Keyport, maybe bringing a lower deck down below, raising it up higher to stop the water, but still giving the Keyport access.
I think
Fishing and
insurance
planning.
regulations now with having the rail,
Yeah.
is it on the rail, so not being able to answer more, but I know that's what happened. Right, they wanted the rail kind of insurance last time, something lower. Okay.
See, John, I'm with you, because that section, I always say is the local section.
Right.
That's the locals go there crabbing and fishing. That's why I asked, are you taking the pilings out? Because it really is, it's a staple for the locals, I'm sure you know that. But if you could speak on that.
Yeah, no, just based on, IBC regulations, there are requirements to have railings anywhere where you gotta drop it more than, I believe it's 30 inches, you have to provide a railing.
Right.
There are some exceptions for things like marinas, I don't know if that specifically applies in this case, where it's a public access.
Well, that's why I was saying, if you had your higher railing, but then you had an access where it went down to a lower, to the water area. Kind of like the floating dock. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, do we have a motion? John?
John Burlow, 34 Broad Street. Just regarding Cass Street, when the gentleman first spoke, the attorney, first thing he said was, I want to thank you for inviting me. Now, I'm getting mixed opinions. Did we invite them, or did they ask to be on the agenda? Because I've heard from 2 council people, actually 3, that said they didn't know nothing about it.
Can
So-
you speak on that?
Yeah, so at the, we had a economic development committee meeting, redevelopment committee meeting, early in July. They gave this presentation to the redevelopment committee. Next steps were discussed, and the next step was to bring that presentation to the full council. As it was too close to the, it was past the cutoff for the first meeting in July. I was not going to be here for the second meeting in July, so I did not want that meeting. So this was the immediate meeting after that. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
But that is the.
It does. So the council usually gets the agenda a couple of days before the public, am I right? To see what's on it. So if they wanted to take it off, it could have came off before before it went on the website.
I would imagine, so.
All right, so I know
What do you mean
Councilwoman,
by that? What do you mean by that?
well, in other words, if you got your agenda on a Thursday,
I get it on a
and-
Friday night, I get a Friday night.
oh, Friday night.
So I don't necessarily look at it on
No,
Friday.
Thursday night, Michelle says Thursday night, everybody gets the Thursday night,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm used to
You are
it,
aware.
I'm used to it Friday. so-
All right, I got
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, for me to look at it, I didn't actually look at my agenda until Sunday, and I think I saw a Facebook post, and that's why I remember it was on tonight. If I knew they were coming tonight, I would have probably recommended that we wait till after Labor Day. Vacations are done, and we have a meeting dedicated for that, but but it was already set, so unless somebody was gonna call them and tell them not to come, because again, I don't know whether they were invited to come, or whether we asked them to come.
Okay.
I was
Well,
told redevelopment request, because I did
That's
ask
what
for
I-
it, and I was told redevelopment request.
Because I kept saying, when we met with them, they had a lot of work to do, they were supposed to be doing traffic counts, and so I thought that by the time we had the next
You'd
meeting,
have it.
they'd have a lot more information than they had tonight.
All right. Follow up to Councilwoman Bakura, I know you said, to see something like that, and believe me, I'm totally against what they proposed. But you did say you need to go to Long Branch. You really don't have to go to Long Branch, you can go to Lower Main Street and Madeline, across the street from the train station, if you wanna see what it would look like. They're building a monstrosity over there, 5 feet from the curb. Anchor in Aberdeen was built.
Yeah, it's not, it's not on the scale of that. And
No,
that's
well,
not what we get. And
if
for
you're
the
standing in
record,
front of it.
I don't like that thing.
Right. But what I'm saying is, there are others that, the Cove in Keensburg, the Rondell Plaza off of 120, the Anchor in Aberdeen. So there are other sites that don't fit the Bay Shore.
Don't give them ideas, John.
What I'm saying is, they had to build those units, we don't have to.
Yeah.
The other thing was, under your report, you said about, Councilman Bakura, about the storm drains, that a meeting, a committee would meet next week. Now, is this a committee that you're forming, or is this a committee
It's a
that,
committee that's already.
it's already formed?
Yeah, so, the committee is, former Mayor Kennedy. It is, me, Councilmember Merla, Councilmember Khan, Heather.
The only thing I would suggest, and, take it for what it's worth, I know Mr. Lane's been bringing it up for a long time, and I seen it live over on Manchester that day. Maybe you really should get somebody from the county, since a lot of the problems are county related, into Borough, as a liaison from the county, to say, hey, listen, we're doing a lot of work, and in the end, we're gonna need you as our partner to correct these items. Because those ditches don't get clean, we could do everything we want in Keyport on our part, we could keep storm drains clean, we could find landscapers for blowing grass and drains. If the county does not maintain them ditches along the Henry Hudson Trail, we're screwed. We really are, and that, we have to put pressure on them.
Hector, you reached out to them
Yeah, so-
since the storm?
So if I,
Since the storm?
no, we not reach out to them.
I
Well,
walked the dog, so when they cut all the trees down, they filled up all the trees are in the, along the land.
Not by your house,
Matt, you were gonna reach out.
by your house.
Yeah, I know
Bad.
DPW
Correct.
contact.
That was gonna reach out.
So-
after
Park
the
system,
last one.
they've been out there to
That's
take a
why
look
I
at it.
videoed them.
So the storm cleaned it up terrible.
Yeah.
Because the guys that hard to cut trees, just cut the trees and just left them there, so.
Our basements are flooding in those 2 homes.
Council, just so, just so we understand, in addition to meeting, with this committee, I've also been working, almost weekly with Matt, Trevor, and our DPWs, right? And there's we identified that there are some items that we need to change in-house immediately, right? And we have seen the difference, we have seen the fruits of that labor. We've also identified that there are some, longer-term coordination efforts, as I mentioned before, with the county, has it, with the state as well. So, we're working on communication with that. So this is really a multi-pronged approach. And I believe, when Matt and Trevor put that report together for you here, next month.
I just know because I walk the trail every day with my dog, so if you don't walk the trail, you don't really see the extent of what sections of it are that are completely blocked. So just because that's where trees went down from electric, and the guys that came in and cut the trees, they just cut the trees and left them.
Hector, just so you know, Mr. Lane has been bringing this up for a long time. They usually go up to Maple Place and they don't go any further. And that's where the problem always is past Maple Place.
I had other items, and I know I'm out of time, but the one last item I'd like to ask you to please consider is a safety perspective. With all the media climbing on this lately about the cyber attacks with the water systems, I really think we need to take a look at putting cameras at the water plant. There are no cameras, there's not even Wi-Fi in the water plant, and this was recommended years ago. Previous administration, Chris Hicks asked Jay Delaney, please put cameras up at the water plant. There was a van parked in the water plant parking lot for sale with Pennsylvania plates 3 days in a row. 3 days in a row, that van sat there. Who knows if that was this stuff that you see when you drive to town, that I see, that concerns me. And then to see that we don't even have cameras at our water plant, that's serious. And I never knew that, I'll be honest with you. I always thought we did, but we don't. It's time. Thank you.
Sometimes they go bad.
George?
Be sure to call the police if you see something, say something like that. Be sure to call the police.
They were.
George Wallen, 54 2nd Street. The new light pole on First Street in front of 31, grass leaves, cattle greases, old barber shop. Who paid for that?
The light, what is it, the light?
It's a new, it's a whole new pole. Yeah, telephone pole, light pole, I'm old, what do you want? Does anybody know who paid for that?
No.
Not the borough.
I can tell you who didn't.
We didn't. Well, that's my question, because I know the contractor was included with that, because he has underground wiring going on now.
I'm not sure I could tell you that the borough didn't.
Okay. Second thing is, along Henry Hudson Trail, being that we're talking about it, in 1998, 56 Fulton Street was bought by the county recreation, Monmouth County Recreation. They haven't done diddly with that property. Can we find out why? I mean, that money, they spent $95,000.
They knocked the house down, right?
Yeah, right, to knock the house down to buy the property, and they haven't done anything. $95,000 definitely could have solved a lot of the drainage problem with piping rather than tree branches, all the other junk that's there. That's the first property, Rob, when you go on the trail, and you make the turn on the Fulton.
Yeah.
It's that first property right there.
I'm sorry, what property was this?
56 Fulton Street, it comes up as, but if you look on the mod 4, it's considered a Monmouth County Recreation.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
John Allen, 89 Ferry Street, Keyport. The regards of your new, about the trucks not coming through, your new ordinance, how you propose they're gonna come now and bring all their cars in and out to the back?
First of all, I really don't care how they do it.
I do because it's in front of my house.
No, what I'm
okay?
saying is.
And you're part of the town and you should care about the front of my house.
They can't even come off of Cass Street, is what I'm saying. So when they come off the highway, I don't care, they can't go that way. And that site, if they have to pull into the parking lot where the tile company is and unload their cars there, That's what they do. If you go down to the end of that building, they have tractor trailers that access that site.
I live there. They're gonna take them with a forklift and they're gonna go up and down the street all fucking day long. So excuse my language. All day long instead of using a tractor trailer. So instead of 35 tractor trailers, you're gonna have,
That may be possible, but see, I doubt it, because the labor to do all that he's gonna have to hire some guy, he's gonna have to do it all day. I don't think, so we'll see if that happens, but I don't think that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna find.
Labor lives in the trailers anyway.
yeah.
Okay. Let him
That's
speak.
my belief.
Yeah, well, they're gonna start a lawsuit that you're stopping them from doing business too. So I'm just trying to, but
Well, let's not say something, nobody has a right to do a public street any way they want. First of all, we could put a fence across that road and say, you don't, it's our road. We could vacate the road and it not be a road anymore.
do that. But
Yeah,
other,
well, that's good.
all right, the other aspect is with all the trucks coming in and out, our house is covered in dust. Our cars are covered in dust, cars have been hit. We have asked for the street sweeper to come down. I've seen it once. Okay, it's been, how many
I
years?
did get them to come one more time when Tracy reached out to me.
So it's been years of
It is bad.
tractor trailers.
Yeah.
I have a 10 by 20 foot tent in my backyard with tables underneath it. And underneath my tent, the tables are covered in dust.
Everything in my yard.
A lot of clothes covered in dust. So it'd be nice if the town kind of helped out and, you know, sent the street sweeper there at least once a week.
I live right on, like, a house right on Beer Street that my daughter lives in, so the backyard, you can't even use it. But the other choice, the other choices on that road.
Yeah.
Well, let it go. I think the benefit of the ordinance too requires the truck drivers, and most of these truck drivers are coming from California. If they get a ticket, they don't just mail it to somebody, and then they'll come to court. Some of them may stop, truckers may say, I'm not gonna do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Jefferson Spangler, 49 Second Street. Hector, you had mentioned a couple, when we had our last meeting about the information that was taken from Borough Hall and sent to one of the residents, that you were gonna ask, you were gonna mention it.
At this point where you need to direct your questions to the mayor.
Okay, so, Mayor, Hector had made he made a statement to me that he was gonna bring to the mayor and council about an investigation into how the plans for my house were sent to a resident. And 3 meetings have gone by that I haven't heard anything about it, so I just wanna know, is that ever gonna happen at some point?
Investigation into any personnel matters.
Excuse me?
We wouldn't discuss here any investigations into any personnel matters.
It's a personal matter to me.
No, personnel matters, not
Oh, okay,
personnel,
so,
personnel matters.
but has it been brought up to anybody? Is that too personal to not say it?
Pending investigation here.
Excuse me?
We wouldn't address any pending investigation here, whether there is one or not, or what the results of that were. If an employee was found to have been in violation of a policy, we would rice notice them and go through the proper process.
Yeah, but if nobody knows about it, how are you gonna make that rice notice? Nobody knows about it. I'm not allowed to talk to him, I gotta talk to you guys.
Hector is working with the employee, so if Hector has it under investigation.
Okay, so somebody does know about it,
That's the
besides
extent of
Hector?
what we'll
Okay,
know.
that's all I wanna know. CME has, to date, CME has gotten $626,720.58, approximately, since January to date. You know, if you had hired your own, engineer for the borough, you could have fully staffed the DPW, fully, with a good pay amount too. That's just one thing. And maybe Matt, you would know, is there I'm sorry. Mayor, do you know why they did a gas mark out tonight, this evening, on Second Street, from Atlantic to Green Grove?
So that would be at the intersection of Atlantic and Second Street. There were some issues with the pavement grades over there. We observed some standing water between the northeast corner and the southeast corner in front of Angels. So we're having the contractor take a look at that, he shot grades. He's probably gonna be going out there within the next 2 weeks. We'll find out exactly when. And he's gonna pour a concrete channel from one side of the street to the other to direct that water across the street and continue flowing south down Atlantic Street.
And they're not gonna be digging up anything and then ruining the new road that you all just paid, we all just paid a lot of money to get.
They're gonna be saw cutting that, installing it cleanly.
We're gonna have a mess on that street already?
Yes.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's gonna be necessary to correct the standing water out
Now,
there.
do you know if they're gonna,
This is ridiculous.
apply the
Crazy.
proper, you know, the seal coat, like they were supposed to do on all driveways that they did all the way down Second Street, are they gonna do that to the street? If they didn't do it in the driveway, there's a seal coat that's supposed to go on from one old to the new. Are they gonna do that in this when they saw cut it and do whatever?
For any cold joints in the road, yeah, those get.
But they won't do it to the driveways.
I would have to check the details.
Well, they did. Alright, that's all I got.
It's not too flat over there, rubber's flat.
Yeah, too flat from one side to the other.
So they're gonna go curb to curb?
Curb to curb from one side to the other, probably a 3 foot wide.
And that's where
concrete
Atlantic
slab.
and where?
Atlantic, Second Street.
And Second?
So that goes back to the issues that we have with ADA ramps and water pooling.
But we brought this up before they even paved it. This has been going on, we were like, make sure. I mean, this is a big problem. We brought this up multiple times, and now we're cutting the road that we just finished after a year, a little over a year.
I'm gonna say, sometimes you have really no choice, because you don't know, you try to get away, that you try to pave it, I guess not get paved. You can't get as exact with paving as you can with concrete, so that's sometimes the problem. You try to deal with it as part of the paving, and it's too flat.
I know, but it was kind
No,
of
no, I'm
brought
not,
up.
I'm not
It
disagreeing
was
with you.
brought up because we were talking about the ADA ramps. We were talking, actually, you were with us.
So this is more than the ADA ramp, right?
This isn't the ADA, it's the.
It's that area, but we said there's gonna be an issue there.
We'll take a closer look at it. If it looks like it's an intermittent issue with the water standing, we don't have to do it. We'll steer them away from that. We'll take a closer look and see what the surveyor thinks.
So where's the 3 feet goes in from the curb, from front of Angels, right, where it meets Atlantic Street, 3 feet into Second Street, is that what you're saying?
Essentially, if you follow that crosswalk, if you're walking, along Atlantic Street, crossing Second Street,
That crosswalk,
it
okay.
basically.
Okay, Mike?
Real quick question. If, the code enforcement officer gives a resident a violation notice, what's the follow-up process to see that the condition was corrected? I know of a property on First Street that got a violation notice, and it's been 3 or 4 months, and nothing's changed.
I was told, Mike, if they pay it, and then that's it. I don't know if they go back, but I know they said if they pay it.
Yeah, they pay the fine, but the violation still exists.
I know.
The violation didn't go away.
I mean, I've seen that on the.
What is the, I
Where a
don't know the
violation is
address.
issued, they pay the fine and then it stays like that. I mean,
I don't know
Just
the
to
address.
clarify, if you receive a violation from code enforcement officer, the fine exists, and the violation has to be abated. So the fines typically will continue to accrue. So now if someone has appealed a violation, and we're going through that process, and I don't know the specifics, so there are multiple avenues that this could go down, that may hold off on the abatement issue and the fine until that's been resolved. But I'm not familiar with any violations, whether they're code violations or whether construction code, electric, plumbing, or property maintenance, where we say to somebody, you know, you were in violation of the code, they pay the ticket, and then they don't have to abate the issue that was the root cause of it. In fact, if we did that, then they would pay the fine today, and tomorrow we would write them the very same violation, because then the issue would still exist. So I think, I understand your concern there. Just because the violation hasn't been necessarily abated yet does not mean it's not in the process of being abated, or that we're not working through some sort of an appeal with it.
Well, this particular violation has occurred multiple years.
I'll give you a quick example, Aaron. Someone's got weeds on their front, right? So they pay a fine. His problem is, okay, they paid a fine, but the weeds ain't cut.
Yeah, so but that's my point, is that
That's where you're at.
if the property maintenance issue in that example is, you know, you have tall grass and weeds, and it's a, you know, we find it's a health violation and it's a violation of our various ordinances. We write them a summons, we write them a violation. That's an ongoing issue, so they're accruing, depending on what the issue is. Now, in those circumstances, and this is where it gets a little wonky, is if we write you for tall grass, for example, and you cut the grass and pay the fine, and then you allow your grass to grow again, that's a new violation. So, what the issue that you may be raising is not necessarily that the issue is not being invaded, it's that it's being allowed to then recreate itself, and that, depending on what the property maintenance issue is, they may not be consistently keeping it in line with the ordinance. That's something that we have to look through.
Higher fines.
Yeah, well, that's typically why under our ordinances, we say our first offense is X, the second offense is X, and it escalates out. If there's something specific that's not being addressed, and the ordinance isn't allowing us to do that, that's something that we can look at, in terms of giving it more teeth for repeat offenders.
In
But
this case,
that's what
in
Mike, the
this
statute
case,
says, if it's a violation again within 30 days, if our ordinance is written right, if you have the same violation within 30 days, the fine can be $2,000.
is that fact?
That's the law, that's the law. If our ordinance, the statute, state law allows you, if your ordinance is drafted that way, that if you give a second violation within 30 days, the fine can be up to $2,000.
All right, so,
But I think,
so,
Mike, if you have an issue with something, report the concern, because the violation may still be going on, or it may be a new violation.
no, it's not a new violation.
Okay,
It's been a violation that existed for the last 5 or 6 years. It's never been cleared.
okay. I don't know what you're talking about, but I think that you have to, either let me know after, or let Hector know, so that they can look at it. Because I don't know what violation you're talking about,
Okay.
all right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Clay Kennedy, 420 Atlantic Street. It seems that a resident just asked about why there were markouts tonight. I saw the same markouts being made. Did anyone on the dais know that there was a problem with this construction project on Second Street?
No.
Like, who would be the person?
Well, I think Matt would let Hector know, and then Hector should let us know. Did you know about it, Hector?
Okay.
We're waiting for an actual mobilization date from the contractor.
Okay, but you had markouts being done already, so you were aware of the problem. So my suggestion is RFPs go out in September. Please do not go out for a 3-year contract again. Please make them back to annual, because this is a disaster what's happening with our engineers.
I got one more real quick one, then I'm done. Do I need to go up there?
Come on.
Yeah, sure, I got them all. George Long, 54 Second Street. Hector, was there a notice in regards
Sorry,
to?
again, point of order, directed to the mayor, please.
I'll still refer.
Excuse me, all right. Rose, can you ask Hector, was there a notice given about the meeting they had with these guys that came before tonight?
Okay.
Was there a notice given?
For the Cass Street, the Cass Street presentation.
So you guys had a meeting without a notice?
Sorry, no, so.
Oh, yeah,
That's
oh,
not-
again,
no,
please
I
accept my humble
think I
apologies.
understand what you're saying, so, no, the notice for the presentation tonight was the posting of the agenda.
No, but Hector said they had a meeting.
So.
In
what you're-
July.
Yeah, so.
Right,
so
was it
You're
there a
asking for a
notice?
separate meeting, no, we don't have to notice those meetings, notices of meetings under the open.
Why
Meeting
wouldn't you
Act.
It wasn't with the council, it's a redevelopment.
Right,
Yeah, so it wasn't a member of the full council, it wasn't even a council meeting, so
It
there
was
was
a
no
committee.
quorum there. And we're not required to, under the Open Public Meeting Act, notice anytime Hector and a member of the council takes a meeting with, any.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Oh, close the public, I'm sorry.
Mayor,
You're still good.
you know,
Hector, say something.
you just one issue that I just want to bring up.
Let's we motion the public portion close first. And then-
Yeah, motion to close to the public. Second. All in favor? Okay.
John Merle has brought up about the, about some of the incidents that are going on. Jesus Christ.
No, we can go to the public portion. We have not adjourned.